All right. Before we get started on this epic adventure of us reviewing a bunch of stuff that we experienced in the past month, I just want to make a public announcement slash apology to our listeners, to you, Peter, and to even myself, because there's this particular word that I use way too often in these goddamn episodes, and that's like. It's a very common word to
It's
use in
tough.
common language, but when I am speaking of the things on this YouTube channel, I find myself saying it quite often, and I find myself saying that in the first place because I'm going back and listening to myself in all of these recording sessions that we have, and every
Mm-hmm.
single time I'm like listening in and editing the like videos, and I'm like, I need to stop saying this goddamn word. I need to slow down. I need to speak. I need to let my mind do its thing and not fill in the blanks with this word that I'm saying potentially for certain parts of certain episodes. It feels like every other word I'm saying this thing. So, I just want to apologize to the eardrums of everyone involved in this thing. And going forward, I hope to limit the amount of times that I say like, even if that means I have to slow down sometimes and not talk about like a million like miles per hour like this sort of or whatever. I
It's
try
tough.
to sound like
I
normally when I get
certainly,
into it.
yeah, I certainly do the same thing. Just
You say something
trying to
slightly
fill the
differently though. You don't
silence.
say like, you say what is it? It's like two words. Kind of. You
So,
say kind of a lot.
kind of. Oh, I do say kind of. I say kind of a lot. It's usually something that you're not even aware of.
No, yeah.
It's just something that you are,
You're only going to
you
become
revert
aware
to.
of it if you
I say
record
a
your
lot
voice
as
and listen
well.
back to
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
Sort of like we are in this very epic show, which, we could get into the real true meat of our discussion here today. So, I mean, there's the
Why
movie
we're
section.
here.
I have three main items on this course. I did see, Peter, that you have at
Just
least
another
one
one.
update. Yeah.
Yep, just one a
Mm-hmm.
month.
Oh
We're
my
keeping it
god.
with that.
It's more than last time. Well, K-pop Demon Hunters was last time.
Yeah, it was right at the end.
That was
Also one a
one.
month. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Same amount as last time. That's good. That's what we want to see. So I get to start us off. I could do two of them, then you could do one, then I could cover the rest of that stuff. So
Sounds
what I
good.
would like to start us off with in this episode is a classic that somehow everybody has heard of, but it needs to be talked about regardless, and that's this film called Inception. Whoa. From
Wow.
2010, directed by this dude Christopher Nolan. That's insane. Why are they talking about that? Everybody knows about it. Well, it bears repeating that this movie is so sick and epic and really cool. Um, it's just so iconic. Like watching it, you feel like you are witnessing film history unfold before your eyes with like each scene and each moment. I don't think it's like a perfect film necessarily. There's definitely some nitpicks or minor plot holes and certain like time things not necessarily matching up. I don't think. But it does ride that fine line for Christopher Nolan stuff where some of his films
Hmm.
the characters are lacking in the character traits to be like defined and like interesting and stuff. And probably the biggest example of that it would be Tenet, where there's just like not really characters and they're all just lore
The
dumps.
protagonists, they're yeah,
Yeah.
essentially just
Which like you could
plot
argue is the
points.
point of it, but my point is that it's dumb and I don't like it. So even though for that movie still I overall enjoy it, it's just that like I need characters for me to be invested in the thing. And this film Inception has the bare bones sort of stuff going on. Like I like Ken Watanabe's character a lot as he's sort of like the villain to them, but he's sort of like trying to be on their side and just to witness the like deal that's going on, and he's this sort of big mob boss dude, but he wants to still be in on the action of like the people he's hiring, which is I think is fun. Um, Other than that, though, it's just an iconic, really cool time that if you have not checked out, I would say it's one of the films of all time, and it's a very good one at that. So I would say it's sort of a must see in ways.
Was this your first time watching it?
No, it's a rewatch. I should have established
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw it
I
for the first
figured.
time like 5 or something years ago. Relatively early into
Y-
my
Yeah,
movie kick.
when it dropped is like when we were first getting
Yeah.
into like big movies like this. I feel like Inception is Well, it's not even just Inception. It's more so Christopher Nolan's style is now what you think of when you think of like a blockbuster film,
Yeah.
at least for me,
Yeah.
where it's just that sense of style, the
Scope.
pace of the movie and the action, and then you're like you said, the scope and like the unique twists that he can spend on something, really has set him apart and turned him into one of our preeminent filmmakers.
Yeah.
And Inception is definitely that, and Interstellar, I think, are his most well-known films. Yeah. I guess that's even ignoring the Batman movies, which,
No, I know. Yeah.
Are a whole beast on to itself. But yeah, impressive movie and impressive filmmaker.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to his Odyssey
The
adaptation.
Odyssey,
That should be good.
yeah.
I hope.
I really don't know what to expect from it, but
It could be anything.
I trust him. He really hasn't missed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A very consistent filmmaker.
On to another film that I saw. It was released in actually the same year of 2010, which I didn't know until just now. And it's this one called I'm Still Here. And it's this mockumentary thing directed by Casey Affleck. And it's about Joaquin Phoenix pretending to quit his acting career in pursuit of a lifestyle profession in becoming a hip-hop musical artist. And the way he pretends to do that is by telling everybody that he's going to stop acting, and he stops getting in roles, and then he tries to start making hip-hop songs, and he sort of does that. It's really weird. The whole thing is basically one big joke, and it really doesn't seem worth it. It's basically career-ending stuff that he's going through, where he's telling all these media outlets, I'm done acting. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm quitting. I'm becoming a hip-hop artist. That's what I'm going to do now. And it just like the ridicule that he fucking puts himself through, it's just not worth it.
He went
threatening the very
documentary.
existence he's living through just because it seems funny to him, and like to Casey Affleck and to a couple of their other wacko friends that you meet in this documentary thing. And you even meet P. Diddy he's Joaquin Phoenix is trying to get him to produce his music or whatever, just to like help him out. And like the first time they meet him, that he's at like a hotel or something, and it's just sus as fuck when they like approach him, and that he's like not expecting them. He's just trying to be like extra secure about like them being in his presence, you know what I mean? Like with the stuff that's come out of him recently, I feel like someone might have been going on, and that he was doing in his hotel room on his laptop or some shit.
Yeah,
before they entered, and he was like, "Bro, you can't come in." Which, like, to be fair, if you were a famous person, you would not want random people seemingly knocking on your doorstep. Even if you vaguely knew them a little bit, you would want to be on the on edge slightly. To give him a little bit of credit, which is not something I really want to be doing, but just because he's
a bad person.
Anyways, so that was interesting seeing him be involved in this thing, and yeah, it's a really weird, unique thing, and it's not something that's going to happen very often, because who's going to be willing to do that? But also the actual payout of it is just this film, which is just it was entertaining, I guess, slightly, a little bit, but none of it seemed worth it. Like, what are you doing? Stop. Don't do this to yourself. But he's just such a good actor. He could get back in, no problem, which he did. I mean, he ended up fine. But for for an entire year, he just stopped for this fucking movie, for this stupid ass idea.
Is it a movie or is it
it's a mockumentary? So it's a film.
Okay.
Technically, it's an hour 50 minutes. So
it's impressive. Joaquin Phoenix
you could call it that, yeah.
He's one of those actors that I'm not surprised he did something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's him, and I feel like Shia LaBeouf would do something similar, maybe. Just those kind of characters when it comes to actors. But I've seen this film. I don't know where. Not watched it, but like I know of it. I never realized what it really was about until now.
Yeah.
But it has intrigued me.
I would recommend checking it out. It's interesting. I don't think it's great. I think
Mhm.
it's decent. If I had to sum it
And
up.
a spectacle, one might
Oh
say.
yeah. Oh, definitely. It's
Something to
unique.
watch. Well, on my end, the sole movie that I ended up watching was one that I had completely forgot was going to come out this year until it finally released in theaters and, was met to a bunch of acclaim, both critically and uh, audience members alike really liked it. And that being the new Paul Thomas Anderson
Oh my
film,
god.
One Battle After Another. And I mean, what can I say? The man, he don't miss. He don't miss. Uh, this is, I'd say, is a step above Licorice Pizza, which was his last one, which seemed to be more of like a looser and more, I guess, self-indulgent movie, just like
Yeah, he's making
kind
it
of
for himself.
celebrating the 70s
Yeah.
and, California like he normally does. This one is perhaps the most contemporary and resonant film that he's made about like modern times since like, I don't know, Unshrunk Love, probably, and even that was not necessarily like super contemporary. I guess Magnolia to some extent too, but this one is very much speaking to modern times, contemporary events, and using a ton of humor and like really weird, black, like sarcastic humor in order to get that point across. But it also holds a ton of heart and really some great tense moments. It's a really interesting film from him, one that I wouldn't immediately place among his filmography. There's just something to it that seems like he's turned a new leaf because he had his original run, I would say, of fairly maximalist and large, like sprawling films, such as Boogie Nights
Yeah.
and Magnolia, that were dealing with a ton of different characters and events, all kind of wrapping up in this big tapestry. And he was using a ton of really elaborate filmmaking techniques in order to get that scope across. And then he kind of pulled back, restrained himself when he was going through, I would say, Master and There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread. These are probably my favorites of his when he was like in his more restrained filmmaking style. But One Battle After Another is a whole new game, very energetic and fast paced. It's always moving. Really easy to get swept up in it. There's an introduction kind of portion which sets the stage, and then there's a time skip. And both sides of those stories, I think, are equally compelling. They both add a lot to each other, and performances across the board are excellent. Leonardo DiCaprio, nothing really to be said about him. He's just one of the best to do it. Sean Penn had a bit of a resurgence with this role as a sort of militaristic villain in this one. And man, does he ham it up. He is so funny in this movie. And really one of the standout roles. Tiana Taylor, who I first knew as a musician, I didn't realize she was getting into acting, kind of crushes it in her first breakout role. Benicio del Toro, also really, really funny as a karate instructor who is also the head of a Latin Underground Railroad. Yeah, it's just really, really funny. This one I would compare most directly to Inherent Vice from Paul Thomas Anderson's other work,
Okay.
where they're both based off of, loosely based, I guess. Inherent Vice is a direct adaptation of a novel from Thomas Pynchon, a postmodernist literature novelist, and this One Battle After Another, is adapted from one of his novels, Vineland, although it's more loosely adapted, probably more so inspired by. I haven't read that one, but it's really funny and disjointed. There's elements that are really kind of take you out of the immediacy of the setting because it all feels very much like it could be real life. And then there are certain things that just peel back the curtain and be like, this is really funny. It's a mirror, but it's not necessarily a one-to-one contemporary depiction of the USA or this planet in general.
Interesting.
Really, really good. I don't know if I would place it as like the masterpiece that so many people are saying it is. Personally, I think I prefer PTA when he is more restrained and he gives, it feels like he gives the movie a lot more time to breathe, and I appreciate that more than this, which is definitely more maximalist in the style of his earlier stuff. But still, it's a new take on that kind of energy that he brings to it, and one that, you know, who knows if it will be super successful. I know that he really hasn't had any super financially successful movies. He's very much a film, a cinephile's favorite director, or even like a director's director. Not necessarily one for the box office, but if any of them were to be successful, I would say this film from him is probably the most mainstream and accessible movie that he's made, maybe ever, honestly.
Oh, really?
Because he's not really known for that. Hard Eight was also pretty accessible, but this one I think is has a good amount of blend between like mainstream
the film
appeal
lovers and the normies.
and yeah, exactly, artistic appeal.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely recommend.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I do definitely want to check this one out at some point. It seems cool. Next thing that I witnessed was actually a set of 3 films. It's a trilogy that I was not aware of until somewhat recently. So a long time ago, maybe 5 or so years ago, I saw this movie called The Silence of the Lambs. And it was somewhat early into my film watching career, probably around the same time I watched Inception or something, where I was sort of just watching banger after banger. And I saw this one alongside all of those, and I was kind of like, I don't know. It's decent, I guess. And I thought it was like a little overhyped, if I had to sum up my past feelings on this thing when I watched it many years ago. But at some point, I was using Letterboxd more and more. I eventually found out that it was a part of this trilogy, alongside a film called Hannibal and a film called Red Dragon. And I guess these are all novels adaptations based upon this character serial killer named Hannibal Lecter. It's Letterboxd calls it the Hannibal Lecter trilogy. I don't know if that's what, or series. I don't know if that's the official name. That's just what they go by. So anyways, I was not aware that these films were related. I had seen Hannibal and Red Dragon around when I would browse actors and directors' pages and stuff. I would, come across them, but I didn't really know what they were or that they even related to Silence of the Lambs. And there's really no indication that they do unless you have read the book series and you're aware of it through that, or just the fact that Anthony Hopkins is in each of these and he's credited as playing Hannibal Lecter. Because other than that, there's really no cast overlap. There's like one, the doctor in the first one is back in the third one. I'll get into that. And they're each directed by different people also. Like there's not a whole lot of overlap in terms of just things connecting them. And then also they don't have like the same title and then just different subtitles. It's just full blown different titles. So it was weird to draw the connection, I guess, between the 3 of these. For some people, I'm sure it was probably obvious, but I only figured it out like maybe a year or so ago. Anyways, I revisited Silence of the Lambs, and I thought it was really, really good, honestly. Upon a rewatch, I was able to appreciate it a lot more. I think the main thing that really sells it is the man, the myth, Anthony Hopkins in this role. He's pretty iconic for it. It's a well-known role of his that he has, and it's the type of character that walks a fine line between being either like weird, creepy, unsettling to witness, or just comical and silly and like, oh, you're trying to be edgy, but you're not. You look stupid, and I'm gonna laugh at you. And he definitely pulls off that first, like the creepy, unsettling, weird, like what is going on in this man's brain type of thing, and that's really, really nice to see, and it's really, really difficult to pull off that sort of character, both in terms of you need really good writing and you need solid acting to back it up, and really he's the main crux of it, I would say, in sort of this whole trilogy, sort of, even though he falls off in relevance with each one, which is interesting, because Hannibal was a film that came out 10 years after, and it's a sequel to the first one, and instead of starring Jodie Foster, it instead has Julianne Moore coming in and playing the same character, and she's sort of trying to impersonate Jodie Foster, which she does fairly well in terms of like the copying the accent, but that's only like some of the time. Some of the times she doesn't even do that like Southern accent, I feel like. Anyways, that was weird. And this movie is just strange, and I feel like overall it doesn't really work. Like I don't even have too much to say about it other than it's out there, and the first film, it the border of the funny, weird, or funny, stupid versus the unsettling, creepy, it fell into the unsettling, creepy one in the first one, and then now the character is sort of seeming to be, it's almost funny sometimes the way he's behaving in this. And he's like going around and just killing people, and I don't know, it seems silly, the things that he's doing now all of a sudden. And then Red Dragon pulls it back somehow, where Silence of the Lambs is really, really good, I think. Hannibal is okay at best. It sort of flips between being decent at moments and then not so decent at other moments. And then Red Dragon overall is quite good. It doesn't have Anthony Hopkins' character in it for too long. It mostly focuses on Edward Norton playing. It's almost the same story as the first one, honestly, where the first one, it's like, I am an investigating detective person, and I'm using a locked up convict who is a serial killer, and I'm using their knowledge to help me figure out this other serial killer who's still out there. It's basically the same plot, Red Dragon, where Edward Norton is trying to find Ralph Fiennes, who just plays the weirdest fucking dude I think I've ever seen. Like, oh my god, I did not know this man could go to these places. I knew he was a great actor. And I'm not going to say that the character he plays in this film is the greatest one ever, either. But he does play it extraordinarily well. And it is also that sort of weird, edgy thing that rides that fine line, which overall I'd say succeeds at it. But it's overall a worse version of The Silence of the Lambs. It's almost identical in terms of plot structure. It's just missing that whole like sex, female identity versus the male, because Jodie Foster's like the only cop in the force, like investigating this thing. All the victims, meanwhile, are female. All the perpetrators, serial killers, are males. Every other police officer dude involved is a dude. And Hannibal the whole time is making comments about that whole thing. And in Red Dragon, you don't really get any of that. It's just replaced by this dude who has a wife and a kid, basically. He likes them. Which, you know, is something. It's not the replacement for the
maybe
stronger themes in the
extent.
first one. So,
More
but anyways,
unique.
it's an interesting trilogy, because I first of all didn't even know that they were connected. But it's also one that has a really good first entry, then like a subpar second one, and then it goes back to being decent and like good overall for the third one. I don't think I've seen that before, or at least I can't think of any that have been like that. It's not a
common structure for a trilogy.
Yeah.
I can't think of any off the top of my head
No,
that match that kind of the rating
Yeah, it's weird.
curve.
But that's my thoughts and feelings on those. I would still say overall I would recommend almost checking them out. At the very least, Silence of the Lambs, sort of like Inception, is sort of a film must see, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely a classic. I don't remember when the first time I watched that one. I remember liking it, but perhaps not,
Yeah.
finding as much value in it as should
Other
be
people.
expected from it being a absolute classic.
Oh, yeah.
But I do remember seeing those sequels and thinking, should I check it out? I feel like I definitely put it off because it's such a standalone classic that almost no one mentions the sequels.
No, yeah, no one
like you
talks about
said, you had no idea they were actually related until going through it yourself. So I will definitely eventually check them out just because like I've done that.
You got
shit
100%
with
the
fucking
series.
every single.
You already started
exactly.
it. You're in.
Like
you
if
have
I
to finish.
watched
them,
just the first Alien, and then I could Alien 2 also good, and then wait, did I really have to go through Alien?
Then you
B,
gotta
Predator,
watch Predator,
B, whatever.
Oh, you watched all the
Requiem,
Predators
fucking,
and all the Alien films. Now you gotta watch these other two bangers.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll do.
I did the same
I'll
exact
watch
thing,
Hannibal.
and then I did it
I'll
again
watch-
for Friday the 13th and
Yep.
other one.
Halloween or
No, yeah, well, yeah. I don't know why I
whatever
couldn't think of that.
the horror. I don't know what it is about horror films that
It's not
lend
Halloween.
themselves
That's
to
a dude.
always being.
They're almost identical though. The Halloween dude, Mike Myers and Jason. They're basically the same fucking thing.
They
Don't tell Red Letter
often
Media
mentioned in
you
the
said
same. Yeah, they're mentioned in the same breath all the time.
Yeah.
You got these slashers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good to know that I should maybe check them out and probably will.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is that the film section? You only have one?
Only have
Just
one.
to double check. Okay. Because I could say the most recent activity beyond that was adding "They Shoot Horses, Don't They" to your watch list, which is from our last podcast
I have not
episode.
been very active. That's for sure.
Hell yeah! All right.
And
Well, then
I
we
haven't
can move
been
on.
active
Then.
with the television.
Oh,
because
shit.
I've not watched anything.
Yeah, I got nothing either. I'm wrapping up my seasonals, which I was not caught up on. Just the secondary things. Maybe next month I will talk about stuff from the last season, the summer season of anime that I did not see, if I decide to witness those. But we'll see. Anyways,
Video games, though.
video games.
That's where we've been spending my time, at least.
Yeah, I have 4 items. 2 of them less to sort
I've
of
got 3.
say. Okay. We could do some alternations
Let's
if
do
you
that.
so desire. To briefly say just a little bit, I finished Fire Emblem Awakening, one of my favorite games ever, defined my youth. I found out that there could be marriages in video games, and I was like, holy fucking shit, dude. I want to marry the bunny lady. And I did. And I went back to it this time, really enjoyed it, loved it. Going back at it through a different lens, through a different mindset, watching those other YouTube videos to get the lunatic strategy stuff in my brain. My main gripe with it is the final map is so much AIDS, dude. It's such a poorly designed piece of garbage. The final boss, they really did not know how to do like difficult final bosses. It's just like give a fucking 100
I do
health
remember
and
this
50
actually.
stats
Yes.
into every fucking stat.
Yeah.
So the main boss, he has like some shit ridiculous. It's like 50 or more defense and resistance. Like he has both of those. And then either like the attack stats for both strength and magic is in the 30s or 40s or 50s or something absurd like that. And then 50 skill, which is important because they have Ignis, which in that game it adds half of the opposite offensive stat when you do an attack. So just half the time he would deal 50% more damage to you when he's already like one-shotting a lot of characters in your army. And he has so much fucking defense, and then on top of that he has a skill which cuts down it like cuts down your damage into half, or like even less than that maybe. And the only way to bypass that is through the falchions that Chrom and Lucina have. And so they were like the only characters who could legitimately deal damage to him. Like the only other person was my son, Owain. And so like I feel as though if you do not build the Chrom or Lucina at all really, and you just have them be sort of shitty, or to have them be just like backpacks to other people, which I sort of did for Chrom. But even then it's like you could just, I feel like, completely screw yourself out, and you just, they're the only 2 characters in the fucking thing who could deal anything resembling any amount of damage that could be dealt to this man, which was only like 5 or 7 at once. I think Lucina would deal 7 damage to him, and Chrom would do 5. And even then it was with shaky hit rates because the skill and luck was so damn high. And on top of that, you have the reinforcements, which again, I hate the way they do reinforcements in this game, where they just spawn right on your ass and fuck you over in the same turn when it should be spaced out. So I like it when games like Fates and Engage do things like that, but in Awakening likes to be mean for some reason. It's like, oh, you probably have all these broken ass characters, so we're gonna also break your ass with these shitty ass gameplay mechanics. So it's infinite reinforcements, and anywhere between 4 to 8 of them spawn per turn, and there's spots right above the boss where they will potentially spawn from. So it's potentially interesting to form this sort of like push back and forth of like you sort of getting his health bar down a little bit, and then reinforcement spawn, so I got to retreat a little bit while also dealing with other reinforcement spawns that can come from like all around. Like it's in theory interesting, and if the reinforcements worked in the ways of the other games I just mentioned, it would maybe be a cool final map. But because you have to know in advance when they come, because if you just let them show up, they're gonna kill fucking half your dudes because they're really strong. Like if you can prepare for them a little bit, where they appear, and then I back up my dudes, and then I let them do stuff on the enemy phase, versus okay, I'm looking at the wiki, I see that they could potentially spawn from here. They're gonna.
What's their range?
There's this
like,
enemy.
How can I stay out of it?
And it's so fucking annoying.
Yep.
Of trying to figure out the exact movements that they have, because also sometimes the enemies could be carrying 1 to 2 range weapons potentially. Like if they're just an axe dude, they could have the tomahawk or just a silver axe. You don't know. And so you have to account for all of that, and it's just the biggest pain in the world. I've like fuck that map, honestly.
It just grinds all of like the pace
so
of the game
stupid.
to a halt because you have to go to another website and prepare.
No, I know, it's so
Oh
annoying.
my God.
I remember it taking a long time on a normal and hard mode when I played the game on those methods, and it took hours, I think, just to like whittle his health bar down, and
Jesus.
it was so fucking annoying.
The
So
thing
I
about
cannot
effective
wait to
damage
go
in
back to
those
the
games-
game on Lunatic Plus
Oh,
eventually.
you're going to. Of course.
I would like to at some point. When
The thing about
I'm
effective-
feeling up for it. The main thing I do not want to face is the early game's the worst part of it, honestly, and the very final map. The second half of the game is actually pretty doable if you know what you're doing. Like I did, because I'm such an epic badass. What were you gonna say?
Just the thing about effective damage in the Fire Emblem games, it's like you need to have multiple ways of accessing that damage effectiveness. And so with something like Grima, where you're going up against someone who has the falchion, that's the effectiveness.
And you have
So
two of them. And
you have two
they're
of them.
exclusive to 2 characters.
like-
They can only be on those 2. And you can't even swap the weapons. Like the parallel falchion has to be on Lucina, and then the regular falchion just has to be on Chrom. They can't swap them either.
Yeah, so that definitely grinds everything to a screeching halt if you have only
Yeah,
two
and other
effective
Fire Emblem
units.
games do stuff like that. Like I know Echoes, Shadows of Valentia makes it so that the falchion, I think it's also the falchion.
Yep.
It deals more damage against the Duma.
Duma, yeah. Something about the dragons and it's Shadowblade, Binding Blade, or Binding Blade and Blazing
Sword. Binding Blade, Blazing
also similar status effects with
That's silly.
the one true sword and
Yeah, like
the
I
one
get it from a
true
narrative
enemy.
perspective. You want the main character to be like epic at the end or
like-
something.
but
Because
the
that's
problem
probably
is-
like what the book. If these had to be like,
If it was a story, yeah.
Yeah.
And like retroactively, that is how it played out
Yeah.
canon-wise. But the problem with the game is like the difficulty is a fluid thing, and if you are manipulating the difficulty to be lunatic plus or whatever, then you'd have to change the systems in order to be able to fulfill that fantasy of the one true sword hero / farmer boy going to kill the one big bad evil
dude,
man.
Donald is like impossible to
Dragon.
fucking use on Lunatic, dude. That paralogue on Lunatic is so tough. Honestly, those ruffian basic ass barbarian dudes hit like a fucking monster truck, man.
They really do catch you off guard sometimes.
So it's Ellery in their video of going over the paralogue. They just say like, yeah, just fucking let Donald die as like a sacrifice. That's like his best use he could be in your army.
It's just keep everyone else healthy.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You have their
Because
progression
they'll
locked
just
in.
the first couple turns of that one, they'll just completely fuck you over. So just to have him as a body to just go after me, and so nobody else takes lethal ass damage. It's a viable strategy. It's what I did, and I do not regret it. Because he doesn't even die in the cutscene. He's like, "I got hurt, Ma. Did you see me though? I did good."
I gotta stay back.
His mom's like, "Bro, you need to stay your ass here." You fucking... Anyways, yeah, I will go back to this probably Unlimited Plus, which I do look forward to. Just not the only thing I do not look forward to is the final map. I honestly might, I don't know, cheese it somehow, but I don't know if that's even possible. By like just grinding out a fuck ton of levels across my entire army. We'll see. I don't know.
Very cool. I just briefly want to, follow up on my game, which I was continuing from last month, which was Baldur's Gate 3, of course. Finished through my Dark Urge playthrough. Very cool, very satisfying. Really like everything. I especially like how much polish they've added to the end game now, because I do remember when I first played through, it just ends after, the final confrontation. And there's really,
that's crazy.
It really just kind of like dumped a glass of cold water on you. It was very sobering and did not feel great. As much as I loved the game, and I think it's 10 out of 10, I would still rate it like that. It was that one thing. And so I really like what they've done with the final 8, the patch 8, and every update sent or before that, just added a bunch to it. And Act 3 is already so massive, and some people might say bloated. I like how much content there is in Act 3.
Yeah.
But man, is it a lot. And it feels better when you have some sort of, an epilogue at the end to justify all of your achievements and help you get your send-off with the gang, which I was definitely missing on my first playthrough. So glad I got to play through that again. Love all the new builds, love all the new classes. It's all great. It's just a fantastic game.
Yeah. Did you use all the new subclasses or just some of them?
Not all of them, but I'd say probably like half of them or more. There are definitely some that are stronger. Bladesong Wizard was a ton of fun. Very, very cool. Get your AC sky high, pace yourself, and just hit for a ridiculous amount. My favorite revelation from this playthrough was figuring out how to use the Resonance Stone, which is just this one piece of equipment you can pick up. It's just an object in the world in the Mind Flayer colony at the end of Act 2, and it gives you an aura of an effective,
it gives you aura.
10 feet maybe. Yeah, like the statue of Sylvanas that you can steal from the Grove. It does the same kind of thing where if you have it on your person, you have an effective aura. What this aura does is gives you disadvantage on I think all of your mental saves, essentially, which is kind of tough. But
it gives you disadvantage on those?
It gives you disadvantage on all of those saves.
Sounds like
which is it's pretty tough, right? Except the benefit is that it gives everyone in that aura vulnerability to psychic damage. Which you're like, well, if I'm carrying that on myself, I'm vulnerable to psychic damage, and I'm having disadvantage on all my saves. That feels like, what is the use of that? Well, the use of it is to carry it on someone who can cast Shadowblade. So that is a warlock, that is a
that deals
Blade
psychic
Song
damage?
Wizard. That does
my God.
3d8 psychic damage plus more when you're upcasting it. And it's all doubled. And then, why don't you toss on a couple levels of Paladin, have them smite, have them, crit, have them hit for 500 damage in one turn.
The smite is not psychic, so it not be stacked.
It is not. It's not doubled, but
Not
it is a
doubled,
lot of radiant, and it's crit. So it is doubled. the dice are at least.
Mm-hmm.
So with vulnerable, that's just tripled. So I think at the end of the game, I had like 3 people with Shadowblade, and I would just have them all gang up on the boss. Just like certain bosses are not affected by it. If they're immune to psychic damage.
Yeah, it's not gonna get rid of that. But if they resist it, does it become normal, like neutral, or does it?
No, that is only from a piece of equipment. There's another build that I had that I really liked, which was using the ballist armor, which you get if you're evil. No, it's if you become one of the assassins.
Oh, ballist. Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't do that. But I kind of gamed the system. There's ways you can exploit your experience with the Saravok, but you can get another piece of armor that gives you another aura that gives you vulnerable to piercing, and so that is just nasty. I had that on my Bladesong wizard with the resonant stone, so I would just have him run up. I had Gale just run up, get in range, and then have Asterion with his, crit ranger, gloomstalker, assassin, just pick them off.
Just basically the same thing you made him.
If they're surprised, it's just it's so nasty. But
if it ain't broke,
it makes it a lot of fun. It's just something about the D&D system in a video game where you
the
can
way they
have
let
the
you break
opportunity
it
to
and sort of mess with things.
You can min-max the fuck out of it, and then also just respec whenever you want.
Yeah, that's nice.
And it just makes it so enjoyable.
So last time you were talking about how you just mentioned you were Dark Urge, which usually that's probably like the epic evil one or something.
Yeah.
But you were saying you were taking more of like a neutral sort of path of things.
Yeah.
Would you say you continued doing it that way?
I did. I always had him kind of being reticent of his actions, being someone who was trying to change for the better, which, there were moments in Act 1 where Dark Urge just playthrough, I feel like, was a little forced and ham-fisted, just regarding how your companions reacted to it. It's like the first murder that you get caught, quote unquote, the companions are grilling you, and then they're just like, oh, it's like whatever, just keep it to yourself next time, essentially. It's just like, okay, I feel like we're lacking some depth and nuance about this whole situation of having a serial killer in camp who is also leading your party,
who can't control himself.
Who knows, yeah. And it really doesn't get any sort of you don't really address it as a group until the final act, which at that point everything is coming to a conclusion. So there's a lot going on in that final act. But still, I think the arc at the end of the day is really cool. I really like Act 3 specifically, what happens there, and choosing to distance yourself from your father, Ball. But yeah, I liked it. I won't. That's like the closest I'm gonna be to evil, doing an evil playthrough, is like being an evil character that actually wants to be good. Just because, man, it's tough. It's tough. I don't like being bad, specifically in video games, because that makes me feel bad.
Yeah. Did you have your character fall in love with anyone?
Oh yeah, same. It's just my queen, my princess, Shadowheart. She's the best. She's my wife. Mm-hmm. I wanted to change things up. I was thinking Lae'zel, because I do like her romance, but
she's probably my favorite. If I had to be frank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you had to be frank.
Yeah, I do want to go back to this game because I finally have a computer that could run it a bit better.
Yeah.
Versus it being laggy.
Mods are also something I would recommend. It's all built into the game, so it's very easy to download stuff, and the quality of life improvements are fantastic.
Does it mess with achievements? Because sometimes it does.
No.
Okay.
I
know for Divinity Original Sin,
there are probably certain mods that do, but I didn't download any of the cheat mods or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mostly just got quality of life stuff, like faster movement, incredible, so fantastic for me who likes to explore every nook
It just
and
makes
cranny
your
on the
walk
map,
speed
it
faster.
just makes it the entire thing faster. And faster is a relative term because I think I put like another over like 150 hours into this playthrough, so I'm like, it's faster, yes, but I can only imagine how much time I saved. But that I think that's just a me problem because I also modded myself to have unlimited party size and combat to match that.
Really
so then I
probably wouldn't do that.
you know,
I like the 4 size thing. That's enough for me to manage. Because even in the like first time I played it, I would have like the druid Halcyon, and he would like summon like 5 fucking dudes, and then transform, and then that was like
that was where I drew the line. I didn't do any summoning builds just because I was like, man, I can't. They are
can't
great.
do any more. Go from 10 to 15.
There's also the necromancer kind of side quest that you can go on where you have the Book of Thay, and you can, if you go on to Act 3 and you can have you have 4 ghouls that you can summon every day. But that's another 4 people that I have to wait for in combat.
That sounds awesome, though.
Like,
and you could combine it with Oathbreaker Paladin.
Yeah. Yep. And get even more summons, raise the dead, compel all your enemies. They're very strong builds. You can do whatever you want, really.
That sounds awesome.
Everything to some extent is viable in that game. I want to do it all.
Yeah. I would like to revisit it somewhat soon, maybe later this year or early next, I'm thinking. My next thing is a game that released this year. It's a pretty dang popular one, and it's a contender for Game of the Year and Game of the Life for a lot of people. And it's even one that Peter has talked about and has played in a previous episode here, and that being from the country of France, Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Hell yeah.
My god.
And what do you think of that?
So this is a pretty cool video game right here.
Pretty good.
To come from France of all places, you're not supposed to make good things. We're supposed to meme on you. But they meme on themselves in this one, sort of.
They do.
By having like there's like these mime enemies. They just full lean on in the French stuff in the random character outfits you can
striped shirts, the beret, the mustaches, and the
There's
baguette.
An optional outfit. You have a baguette on your back. Anyways, that's not what the game is mostly about. It's a turn-based RPG with elements of the real-time combat, sort of in terms of like an enemy attacks you and you could either dodge or parry it and stuff. And the only other turn-based RPGs that I was aware of that have done this would be the Paper Mario games and the Mario and Luigi series, and then maybe also Mario RPG. So all the Mario's bit of RPGs.
So also they stole from Mario. No, they stole the JRPG formula from Japan, and they stole the
Nintendo. Sue their asses
from Nintendo.
Sue the state of fucking France over this game. The only other one I know is Bug Fables, which is basically just a Paper Mario inspired indie game. And so this game does it quite differently. It feels a lot more like it's trying to be more like a Souls-like in terms of the dodging, parrying stuff, and you got the whole like camps, flag things that you rest at, and then the enemies respawn, and various things like that. And it's a pretty game with a really good story and really good characters that accompany it. And it's split into a couple acts, I think 3, I guess, in total. And they're all solid, and it goes places, and it's interesting. And I would summarize this entire game as refreshing in maybe like every single way, where it's a beautiful looking game somehow made by 30 people or so. And it's got really good voice acting and overall writing. And it plays extremely well, and the animations are solid. The game is fun. The locations are nice to not only look at, but they're also diverse in terms of sticking out from one another, while also being different from normal, like other video game common
fantasy JRPG, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Go to and those types of things. Like it feels so inspired. I don't know from what. I guess France just has its own pile of stuff that's just sitting there that nobody's touched because nobody wants to touch it, but they did,
Yeah.
and it's really cool for those reasons. It does not let itself get bogged down with all of this side content. There is some. There's definitely a good amount of it, but it doesn't push it in your face at all. There's no like quest menu. There's no like it just puts you in the main story and it lets you go. And if you want to diverge a little bit, you're completely free to. Um, and it's just really nice in terms of being able to do that. My main gripe when it comes to the writing is the comedic scenes. Some of them would
Hmm.
border on sort of like MCU level dialogue. I felt like,
Yeah, I
um,
can see that.
where it just it wasn't quite like she's they're right behind me, aren't they? It wasn't quite like that, but it was like a tier above it, I would say.
Yeah.
At moments, and not the entire game was like that, and certainly the more emotional parts were a lot stronger. It's just that the certain times where it tried to be funny was just like, oh, whatever. Um, and the voice acting, like I said earlier, was really really good. There's two languages that it's in, French and English, which I listen to the English, which it's pretty interesting in that because they're very clearly instructed in saying some English words in French ways or just outright saying French words. So they're trained in saying particular things in French. Just sort of like basic things, like at the end of at the end of sentences when they would try to pose a question, they would just say no, and no when
Hmm.
question mark, stuff like that, or they would say merde. They would like cuss in French was mostly what it came down to, um,
Hmm.
and it reminds me of more modern English dubs of things that come from Japan, where they keep like the honorifics and stuff, where they like keep
Hmm.
saying kun and sama or san in like the English.
Senpai. Yeah.
It reminds me of
Yep.
that a little bit. Not that it's not even like a bad thing. It's just, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
way to
Comes
do it,
with an
and it makes
adaptation.
this thing stick out a little bit more
Yeah.
from other things. So they not all of them had like a perfect bilingual accent thing. Like I took French in middle school and high school, and I do not necessarily have the best French accent, nor do I understand the language perfectly, completely. But I can, for the most part, recognize an authentic French accent. I feel like, and that was not necessarily these guys in their thing, but they were very good in their French sayings when it did
Hmm.
come to moments where they had to say that, which was not often, but I don't know. I noticed that because I had the French language in my life for a period of time. Um, Other interesting things. For some reason, I say attacks don't miss. That's not that interesting. In some games, the attacks will miss. In turn-based RPGs, they have like a percentage-based thing that
Hmm.
could go up and down depending on stats. And in this, they don't care about that. It's just if you hit, you hit. And then there's like flying enemies that appear, and those guys are going to dodge more often. So it's again like refreshing in a way of where I don't have to consider that sort of thing all the time, because it would be almost interesting if some of the bosses would dodge your attacks in the same way that you can dodge theirs or parry. But that would also be kind of fucked up if they did that for like every single enemy in the game. Just
Yeah.
by a percentage chance they dodge your attack or parry you. Just be like,
That'd be
fuck
very
you.
tough because the resources are very much,
They'd have to change
built
the entire game.
around. Yeah.
So parries are really really strong in this game. If you could get your timings down, you could basically just win the entire fight without even having to engage in any of the turn-based mechanics or like
Hmm.
leveling up your skill tree and making sure that's all good or caring about you're putting all your stats in the right spots and stuff. You could almost just get by with if you're really good at that sort of Dark Souls gameplay and you really like that, memorizing the enemy attack patterns and mastering that and just going after the parries. You could just completely do that the entire game. Or you could do what I did, which was sort of a mix of both and caring about the RPG aspects of it, which is it's my bread and butter. It's my
Hmm.
I love that video game genre of the turn-based RPGs, and I'm not so big onto the more action-based things because my brain does not compute fully with that stuff. It's just not something that meshes super solidly with myself. Though I did feel myself enjoying the the parrying
Real time
stuff
pairing, yeah.
in this game. It was nice when I pulled it off, and it was annoying sometimes because I'm still not expertly good at it. But you would fight the same enemies over time. You would, naturally at some point get more comfortable with the exact timings of each of their attacks, and you would try to pull off the parry move on various successes. And when it worked, it felt really good. It was cool, I would say. Though it's still not necessarily my favorite thing. I've heard people make the argument that every turn-based game should have stuff like this because it makes it more interesting in that. And this is the time where I'll gatekeep and I'll be like, no. It's cool that some of them do, but I don't think this should be the norm. I like being able to take my time and think about things and not have to worry about sitting on the edge of my seat. Am I gonna press the button at the right time to dodge this person's attack? It's cool in this game, and I like it a lot, and it makes this game stand out. It's not something I want in every fucking game. If Final Fantasy series goes back to turn-based mode stuff, and then they did dodge and parries and that, like, fuck that. I'm cool with it in the 7 remakes and 16 and stuff, because that's the full-blown action, right? But I don't need it in the, say, like, Persona 6. It's like, we're going to add dodge and parries. It's like, can we not? Can you please not do that? Can you go back and do the whole thing, rework the whole entire fucking game again, please? I don't want that. I also don't want Persona 6 to be green, but I think it's going to be green. So
it's probably going to be green. Yeah.
That sucks. There is no map in this game. There's an overworld map, but there's no mini map when you're in each area. And it's not necessarily a game that needs it because the areas are somewhat linear and contained, but they do contain, a lot of forking paths. And when I experience those in video games, I want to generally take the fork in the road that leads to the optional stuff that gives me the cool items, or the one-off enemy that gives me the cool items and stuff like that. And so it was at times hard to figure all that out, especially without a map screen. Not even a mini map in the corner. You could not even pause the game and open the map screen to like see where you're at. Which again, it doesn't necessarily need that, I guess. I mean, I got by without it, okay, but it could be something that could be nice, especially if I was the kind of person in this game to go back to old areas to get stuff that I missed, and I'm following guides that have, like, in this look, they would have to, like, describe it, or I would just have to straight up follow a YouTube video, versus I pull up the map screen and the guide has an image of where on the map screen that you have to be to get the thing. Instead of all of that, I have to just watch a YouTube video and follow it one for one from the point they spawn to the way they walk. Or I just try to interpret, like, it's the item, the rock, it's under the rock. You got to turn left from this position, and it's beyond the trees here. There's a little passageway. It tucked behind
across the bridge,
fourth
and
node.
then...
Yeah, like, which is not really something that I want to do. But it's not. That's also not something I necessarily experienced in this one, because I was not trying to go for that 100% experience and going back to, like, old areas to get old stuff that I did not get. Other random things I have to say is they have this toggle button for whether you want to, or excuse me, they have a button that you could use to sprint, and by default you hold it down and you sprint, and then when you release it, you stop sprinting. In the settings, they let you swap that from, you can either hold it down or you could toggle it, which a lot of modern games do that now, if they have a sprint option, which is different from run, just so the non-gamers know what I'm talking about. And so I swapped that to toggle, and the way that it works is that when you toggle the button on, anytime you move is when you're going to be in sprint mode, and then if you toggle it off, then you're going to be in run mode, right? Except it would reset itself when you do like a grapple hook thing. If you were toggle it on to sprint, it would set you to run. That was my entire point with the sprint and toggle thing. I just thought that was odd.
Just something to note.
It's in my notes, so I have to fucking say it. I thought it was interesting. Out of battle. Oh yeah. So a lot of modern games they let you. A lot of modern turn-based games they you run around in an overworld. There's enemies in them, and then you could swing them with your sword for like a basic thing, which helps you get some sort of preemptive thing when it comes to battle. Like you get your turns first before any enemies make their turns or something. And this game has that, except it's annoying and not great because there's times in the game where you are on layers of elevation and the attack only moves horizontally forward. It does not account for the elevation difference on the floor you're at based on where the enemy's at. It doesn't go up at them. So sometimes I'll be at a distance where if it moved itself in relation to the ground below me, I would have hit them. But since it's just going straight ahead, it misses them. So you have to be like right up on their dick to fucking shoot them if they're even like a few steps above you. And I felt that was silly and annoying. Again,
No, I
not the
do
biggest thing in the world. It
remember.
only came up a couple of times, but I feel like it was someone preventable, maybe. Other than that, oh yeah, so there's this archetype in I think just turn-based RPGs. It might be mostly a Japan thing also. But there's this thing called, I actually don't know what it's technically called. I call it the Blue Mage because that's where I know it from in Final Fantasy, where most RPGs, you defeat enemies, you gain experience, and that experience, once you get enough experience points, you level up. And through leveling up, you gain more stats and more abilities, skills, spells, like whatever. And that's how most characters in most RPGs work. And the Blue Mage is sort of an interesting exception where you might still gain experience for stats, but the spells and ability stuff you're going to gain by directly defeating specific enemies. And each enemy is going to grant you a particular skill. It might be a thing that they're capable of, or it might be sort of an alternate version of the thing that an enemy can do. But blue mages are pretty interesting because they can potentially have a very wide array of spells, abilities, whatever. Most likely much wider than any other character could in the entire game. They tend to, however, be very shitty because it takes forever to get them going. And also, once they eventually have a bunch of moves that they could potentially use, they're usually still not too good because the actual moves and spells they have are just not as good as the ones that the developers intend for you to have at certain parts of the game. Because they don't want to create like an unbalanced freak, sort of like, I think Dragon Quest 3, the monster tamer class. It's a bit different from Blue Mage, but it's somewhat similar. That one was OP because it would just give you so many stats based on how many monsters you captured. It's very different, actually. I don't know why I'm comparing it. But the Blue Mage, also, a reason why it's difficult is sometimes you have to have them not only in your party when you're fighting a particular enemy, but you also have to have them be the ones to defeat the monster, and then only through that can they gain the ability. And in this game, it features a person who is of the Blue Mage archetype, and they do not have to go through that silly thing. They still have to be active in combat, but they do not have to be the ones to actually deal the finishing blow. And the other drawback of Blue Mage dudes is they usually can only get one per battle, versus like if they were to defeat or just participate in battle against multiple enemies whose skills they could get, they could only get one of them at a time versus multiple of them. And the Blue Mage in this game lets you get as many as there are like new enemies. So that's awfully nice. And even from the get-go, when they only have a couple of things going on, the starting skills that they have is very, very good. And they only get better as you fight more things. And this game features an area towards the end of the game where it's just sort of almost like a gauntlet of previous areas all hodgepodge together. And it includes the enemy types. So you don't even have to backtrack to areas earlier in the game where you did not have them. You could just keep playing it and you'll get most of the skills through that. I was absolutely amazed by how well they handled such a horribly handled
tedious
archetype through
yeah
so many
yeah
games, and they just nailed it in this. And it's one of my favorite archetypes. It sucks so much in so many games, and in this it's like perfect. I was
yeah.
mesmerized by how well they did it. I gave them a standing ovation when I found out all of that information all at once.
Was he one of your go-to party members then?
I pretty much had him in the party at all times, just to make sure I was getting the
Yeah,
unique enemies.
all
Because the other
the
thing,
items, equipment.
this game for some reason is weird when it comes to switching party members. It doesn't really let you unless your live team gets wiped out, and then you could send in your reserve team, which you only ever have at most 5 party members at once. So you have 3 active ones and then 2 in reserve. So 3 of them die, and then you send in 2. Versus, you just swap them whenever you want on the fly, and maybe there's a slight penalty for that, like a turn delay or something. But no, they just don't let you do that at all. Like, you're locked in. Which is interesting.
When you're in combat.
Yeah, when
you
you're in
can
combat. When
swap
you're in the
your
overworld,
teams
you can
out,
swap them out
obviously,
whenever.
overworld. Yeah.
But when you're in combat, because you might come across certain enemies where it's like, oh, this person has shields. I want to make sure I have this shield buster character, but you cannot swap them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Within
that
combat.
is something that I think would have required some tweaking, because instead of
so?
having very specialized builds for your different companion members, I kind of found myself building certain characters the same. Which is just because of the, what are they called, the Pictos? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
The different Pictos.
That was a
kind of
cool system.
inform your archetype of either doing damage or stacking statuses or doing support stuff, debuffing. That is where more of the actual build style comes in.
But like, if you
outside
only
of
spec
the
one
unique
character
skills.
into each of those types of things, it would be
Yeah,
cool, almost maybe not
Be able to swap
necessary.
them out.
Because I mean, clearly a lot of the people, including myself, like the game enough without this. But to be able to, like, on the fly, if you do have them, that to be that focused to whatever. I mean, for the most part, my characters could handle whatever situation they were thrown at, no problem. And it would just mean that sometimes there would be slight cases where, oh, if I had this party member instead, I would have won a couple turns earlier or something. Versus I just keep battling, and the more you're in combat with them, the more you're gonna learn their attacks anyways. So I mean, it's not like a huge detriment, and it's also not like fights take that long anyways.
No, and like there is no complete roadblock, because like we said, you can just play through the game, passing every single one of your turns. And just, if you hit the parries, if you dodge everything, you're going to stay alive, and you're going to do damage just by hitting the parry string.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of freedom with how you approach any certain
It's not
combat.
necessary at all. I just did find it odd, though. And it made me feel less incentivized to have other party members in the active party besides the dude who I wanted to make sure he had all the skills and stuff.
Yeah, because on my end, I never used
really?
your blue mage archetype character. I
You're
just
like, fuck this dude. You benched his ass.
He came too late, and I just
Damn.
had I had my
good.
squad of girlies.
They're all really good.
Fucked shit up.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Mael is just an absolute killer.
Yeah,
Like the strongest character that you can build. But all of them were a ton of fun, and man, I really like the Picto system. I just had so much fun just like swapping. That's like you said,
it's really good.
There's a lot of polish that I think the game could use, which is like why I had a hard time giving it a perfect score or whatever. Because there are certain elements that I think could have been better. Like you said, a map would have been really nice, because I was that guy that went and tried to go through everything, and you take the
Did you actually do
branch
that?
yeah, because
what else are you
I
gonna
even
do?
did my research. Supposedly,
Okay.
they have essentially the golden path in this game is indicated through lanterns or lamps. So if you see a path that branches, then most of the time the place that you are supposed to go for quests or whatever, the narrative, is the one that is lit by lamps.
No way.
That is not 100% accurate, and certain, there are there are certain branches
try to
in the
mess
game
with
that
that or
are
play with that
multiple
idea.
branches. Not even. It's just like sometimes none of the branches have lights,
like
and
not
so you're like,
intentional.
well, I kind of see a light off in the distance in all of these. Like there's just ambient
Yeah.
lights and set dressing on all of these different locations that I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't work 100% of the time, and I think a map would have helped with that or some sort of indication
Yeah.
on stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Still, I think they did a good job with how scant this team was.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely.
But another thing that I would have really liked is for the Picto system is being able to search the Pictos. Because once
Oh
you
my
have
God. It was just a
70
way
of
to
them
filter it
or
and be
some
like,
million,
let me get the
and
only
you have to
the
scroll through
basic
every
attack
single
ones.
one.
Let me get through
Like,
only the
holy
fucking
shit.
ones that deal
Yeah,
with
or
marked
even have like
enemies.
a filter by recency. Like that would be great. But
Oh, yeah.
it's mostly just like filter by, your cost or whatever. And it was just a little annoying for how much I wanted to constantly
Yeah.
change things out. Like when you get a new Picto and you're like, holy shit, this one with
It
this
combo's
one
really
is
good
gonna
with this
be,
one. I
oh my
remember, but
God.
where is it?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't have that equipped
know.
because I wasn't useful until I found this one.
Yeah.
And then you have to go through I don't know what the total list of Picto numbers are, but
It's probably like 50
it
or
was
more.
a little annoying. It was a little annoying to have to go
Yeah,
through them
and
all.
it seems weird that we're complaining about menus, but in RPGs it matters a lot when you're messing with the equipment of multiple characters, and it's if it's organized in a fashion that allows for the player to figure things out in a reasonable amount of time, and we're not spending goddamn 50 minutes in it, then that could not only speed up the process of the game and get us back into the epic battles and looking at the cool scenery that we like, the parts of the game that we like, versus we're spending an extra, even if it's only like 5 minutes or a couple minutes where I'm looking around, or even a matter of 30 seconds, right, of me theoretically pushing the button to toggle the filter the thing, and then there's only 10 of them that's relevant, I just look through those, versus I have to look through the entire thing, and maybe I randomly find it early on, or it takes me a minute, even then
It's
it
just one
could
more
go a long
element
way,
of friction.
because you're going to be doing it multiple times throughout the game if
A
you're
lot,
if you
yeah.
if you care, if you want to be proactive about that stuff, which the both of us
I guess that's the thing
sort of were.
with this game is it's not necessarily
You don't have to be.
really menu focused. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are more narrative and more cinematic. I think a lot of this game is built up to be a cinematic experience.
It's very
and
cinematic. It's
all the cutscenes
Yeah.
and the voice acting and how it blends from your you're moving in the overworld, and then you kind of usually transition smoothly into a cutscene.
Yeah.
It's all built for that sort of experience. So there, I guess, aren't as many menus as you might expect for a regular JRPG experience. Like there are weapons that you can pick up and different sorts of equipment, but it's way, way, way more toned down than things that you're gonna, if you're playing Atlas games or if you're playing Final Fantasy or whatever. There are definitely elements that have been trimmed down and streamlined into deliver a package that is more accessible in general. I think that's why
100%.
this game was getting a ton of
100%.
praise from people who don't normally play turn-based games, just because it's a more streamlined package. It's a great story to grab you and keep you engaged, and then also all of the different elements of lower menu fatigue and systems that you don't have to really worry about the enemy's going to attack you the same way every single time. You don't have to worry about the AI picking out different strategies or using different moves that you might not have
it's
anticipated.
like unpredictable. Memorize the
This
attack
time it's all on you, gives the onus to the player, and I think that's why it had so much success in kind of branching out and creating a different audience for itself than you might have expected.
Yeah, it appeals really, really well to RPG tourists who don't mess with these games too often.
Yeah,
Because
normie.
it is so cinematic.
It's a normie masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a normie masterpiece, 100%. But that's what's cool about it is that it's able to appeal to both. There are some very hardcore RPG people who I've seen on the internet be like, this game fucking sucks and I hate it because they don't like the idea that it has pairing or whatever, even though the Mario RPG games fucking have it.
They did it first.
They invented it, and there's a history of RPGs.
Oh, so you hate Mario? Oh my god.
Bro, you fucking... the same people who really like the Mario Luigi series or Paper Mario and shit are like... I can't imagine they're the same people dogging on it. I feel like it's mostly just Persona heads or something. If I had to guess, genuinely, like people who think they're super fucking into RPGs, but they just played like 2 or 3 of them.
Persona 5.
Yeah,
Persona,
they watched Persona. They watched Persona 5
like,
Let's
how
Play,
can you do this to
and
me?
they played 20 hours of the 3 Reload or something. This is a betrayal to everything that I love. This fucking game from France. Anyways,
how could they do this?
Yeah, that is, I think, though, a strong point. That's what's cool about it, is that you could know nothing about RPGs really and still enjoy yourself with it, and then also really like RPGs and be willing to try slightly different genres than just the same thing every time. So it's, again, refreshing in that way. Like you said, it's for the menus and for everything, really. The entire game is it's took me 30 hours. A lot of RPGs... JRPGs specifically might be double that or something, maybe on average, and so it's refreshing to see the almost like limitations of it just not being as big and that being a good thing, and that's weird because usually for some reason we want games to be bigger and bigger when that's not necessarily a thing that is ideal, I think. I did, however, have another issue with it was the lighting. I don't know if you ever had that, but it was too dark visually for me. I had to turn up the lighting.
In certain locations, it gets bad.
Yeah, that was weird. Like, I've never had to do that, really. I don't think, for...
Yeah, something about the contrast or certain effects with the lighting made it so that, like, the contrast in very dark...
You just couldn't see shit. Like, in the first time you go to the mansion, it's just like, I could see some of the patterns on the walls, but also some of it's so fucking dark.
Yeah, the one with the caves where you go down is like, I have no idea where I am. That specific place was a big pain trying to unlock everything or explore the whole thing because it was not.
You didn't
built
know
for
that you could turn up the brightness or the contrast and shit in the menus.
I tried, and even then, it's like it's blown out in the daytime, and then you can kind of see shadows in the dark.
That's the issue. This game also features multiple endings, which was a surprise. It's basically just everything about the game story is just one thing, and then at the very, 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 very end of it, you have a decision between 2 options to make, and it determines the final cutscene that plays thereafter it. I did one of them, and then I looked the other one up on YouTube. I like both of them. It's just weird that it has this sort of... split. It reminded me of the hot video game character Stellarblade. It reminded me of that, where it's like there's nothing going on about this. First of all, there's nothing really going on in the story. The story's kind of whatever in that game. But then at the very end, it's like you gotta choose this shit, man. There's gonna be the biggest consequence or something of ever. It just seems not half-assed in necessarily either title, and it doesn't feel like necessarily an afterthought either, but it does stand out as being a little bit weird, and I don't think it's completely forced in this game, because both of them are good. I like both of them. Like that's not how maybe most people would describe them, to allude to the themes that they have and the emotional moments that they have towards the end of it. But I did enjoy both of them and their differences, and I definitely think one is overall better in terms of the being more conclusive and like more like a good end versus bad end. But it's not quite like that. It's more complicated.
It is.
Than all that.
Yeah.
But it's still strange, though. I feel like that it's just randomly near the end here. It's just you beat the final boss, and it's like, which fucking option do you like more, or which thing do you choose between these two? And then it's the next 5 minutes is whatever thing you choose based on that, and that's it. It's sort of weird.
There are definitely certain elements like that where it's not an RPG first, right? Like you're not really role playing. But there are moments where you do. And specifically, I'm talking about camp moments.
Yeah.
once you go through Act 2, and you get to start building relationships, which
I was surprised because they
also
did not start introducing that until Act 2, and I'm like, what
exactly
the fuck is happening?
yeah.
Which
And
I
it
mean, after
felt,
that,
I
point,
wasn't sure if
there's
it
a
was
huge twist at the end of Act 1,
right,
and then
yes,
Act 2 is happening, and I'm still in that mode of like, I cannot believe this is fucking happening. And then you introduce,
and then we're doing all this shit right now.
Introduce relationship levels. I'm like, what do you mean you're doing that right now? We're like
Wait.
15 hours in, or 10 hours.
That
in
feels like it feels like a betrayal at some point.
Yeah,
but there,
cool,
yeah, it's just like when it felt. I enjoyed it. I can see how it might feel out of place, and I think they wanted that set up in order to have that payoff at the end.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole game is still leading up to it, and
yeah,
you know, I did not enjoy the
but
moments that
kind
happened.
of is it's not in line with the rest of the game necessarily. But I think it was a very welcome change of pace, especially at the end. It just gives you a sense of agency and, you know, immediacy to your actions.
Yeah, like putting it on you. Yeah, because it is such a sudden thing. Like the idea of putting all of this end part on you.
Oh, we're doing this now. It's like there's
happening live.
There's no option 3.
And
you get choice A or choice B.
And it happens after you did the final fucking boss. So if you want to do the other one, you have to do that again.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's I really enjoyed the ending. Thought it was a standout. Yeah, very very cool, very mature. Great send off to a game and a story that I think
is very good.
Just leagues above most that I played, honestly.
Yes, same. Yeah, I love this game. One other thing, which is not a complaint, it's sort of a neutral thing. There's 2 achievements that are exactly the same. There's SQA's Nest and Legend, and you unlock them at the exact same time. They're triggered by the exact same thing. I don't understand why there's 2 of them.
Yeah. That's another thing about game development that I find so interesting is like, how do you choose what to be an achievement, and like how do you double check to make sure things like that don't happen or do? I don't know. Is it intentional? I guess we don't know. Up to how the devs want to play it.
Yeah, that was my last point though. I did really like this game a lot. It's a game that came out this year. It's, I guess, the one I liked the most from the games that was released within this year. Though the only other one that I really played was Xenoblade X. So
yeah, well, I could talk about a few other games that came out this year that
you played Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition.
Hell no! I don't
my
no
god!
JRPG.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into a certain sequel to a game that you played through recently, that being Hollow Knight Silksong.
Oh
After
my god!
However many years, we're finally here. It's finally dropped. Team Cherry finally released.
They did it because of me.
Magnum opus, perhaps. What was that?
They did it because of me, by the way. They dropped it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were like, oh shit, Drew
this
played
guy
this?
just played through it?
We need to release this now.
Then he can play through it and get
Then he can wait 2 years
coverage.
and then
Let's
play
it. But yeah, it's great. It's Silksong is fantastic. I would put it on par with Hollow Knight. It's more Hollow Knight. So the world is great. It's different. It's not. It has the same blend of melancholy and, you know, an aging kingdom falling to some sort of curse. This time in a different region of the world. Same bugs, different, obviously, movesets and stuff like that. All of the combat, I think, is greatly polished in this game. I think it's a real standout. It felt so good to play, especially once you get more of the unlocks and your movement abilities. In addition to, in this game, there are now crests, which allow you to essentially have different movesets. So there are 5 different movesets, I think, at the end, that you can switch around and each have like a unique ability or like synthesis. Like one specifically buffs your silk abilities, which are your meter. Certain ones allow you to build up that meter quicker by I guess creating motes that you can collect after hitting an enemy. There's a bunch of different things, and the movesets are really fun to play around with. eventually you'll kind of lock in on one and just use
Sure.
it to get through the entire game. But there are situationally good ones that I really value being able to switch those around, especially if you're having difficulty with a boss or something. And regarding difficulty, this game is it's definitely tougher than Hollow Knight 1. It's harder in a different way though, because there are bosses that are obviously very difficult in both games. But with Hollow Knight, the run-ups weren't that bad. Some certain ones were very bad, obviously, and I didn't even go through some of the worst ones that you have to go through towards the end, and your different your path of pains, whatever. But just in general, across the board in this game, there are, I'd say, like 30 or so bosses, and I'd say maybe a third of them have egregious or at least noticeably painful runbacks, either by being distance-wise with platforming elements in between, or enemies in between, or both, or gauntlets that you have to fight through before the boss comes, or both, or all three, or any individual. There's a lot of that, which really kind of brought to mind my experience with Dark Souls 2 and how that game approached its difficulty.
Sure.
Dark Souls 1, obviously famous, very hard game. Dark Souls 2, also hard in similar ways because the bosses are very hard, but also just generally the maps and the layouts and the paths that you have to go through are tuned differently, and I would have to do more in-depth research into why it doesn't click with me, but it has a sense to do with the lack of immediacy that you can get when, oh, I die to this boss, well then I'll be back in 5 minutes after I run back. And in that meantime, that 5 minutes, I'm seething inside. I just want to fight this boss. I know I have it. I know I could kill it in this next run. But instead, I'm going up against, fucking Jack Off 1 and Jack Off 2 that are just knocking me around and taking away all of my health because a lot of the damage in this game are 2-mask damage. The most painful aspect of that is it's 2 masks on contact, which feels so tough, especially because the bosses are moving all across the screen, across the entire arena, and you're trying to avoid them, avoid their attacks, and then also jump up and get your licks in.
Hit them.
And when you can't and you jump into an attack, bam, two done. 2 of your masks done. And if the boss was attacking at the same time, there's another one. Then if it's like a multi-hit attack, it's like, yeah. If you accidentally miss a heal, get hit once, jump into the boss to try and attack, you could probably hit them. But if you touch them, then you're taking those 2. And then you also hit, man, you could go from like a full 10 masks to like 4 in just the span of like 2 seconds. And it feels really bad. There's a ton of things you can do to get around that. So I'm not saying this game should be tuned differently. I think you get a good sense of the balance of it towards the end. But the most egregious part by far is the runbacks. It's like the bosses are already hard, and the problems that I was experiencing with like the contact damage and getting used to that is just exacerbated by the runbacks and the sense of difficulty from everything except the boss, which is not really how I want to play games like that. Platforming, I think, is, it's still tough. There are definitely certain biomes that are much harder. Specifically, there's swamp ones that are some of the worst locations that I think I've played through in Hollow Knight. But just besides all my complaints about, difficulty, I think it's a really, really great game. If you like the first one, has all of the aspects that you would like. It's just that sense of, as much as I talk about raging or getting mad at this game about the difficulty, is it is peaceful to play. When you're just exploring and you're not going up against this boss, you're just trying to figure out where you're supposed to go to next. Because you'll be locked behind some certain movement ability that you don't have. You're like, well, where do I go for that? I guess just look around. And that sort of exploration is where this game shines for me. Once you have a good sense of a balance of the movement systems and then also the combat systems, you're going to be moving around very gracefully, very fluidly, and it becomes second nature. All of the combat does. Honestly, one of the hardest aspects to this game is the quests. Certain quests are very hard to follow. It is useful to have a guide sometimes, but that's just like, the aspects of the Souls games that they like to embody is that vagueness in quest design and stuff like that. It's better in this game because they have a pretty easy to follow menu in order to direct you to stuff. But one of these quests that you're going to end up going through throughout the entire game will take you to the final act, which is a secret act. There's a secret third act that's not so secret, but you have to do certain things in order to unlock it. It just has a celebration and a festival with certain characters that you'll come to save and aid throughout your entire playthrough. And once you get there, there are certain festivities that you can take part of. There are 3 specifically, and these are juggling, avoiding damage, and then also bouncing on, just like keeping up in the air. Just different sorts of competitions that you can do with the systems that are in the game. And man, there's ones, because I'm pretty much 100% in this game, besides the speedrunning stuff, and I think there's
no death run.
Steel run, no death, which I'm not about to do that anytime soon.
A little bit.
Sounds extremely bad and not fun for me. So I did everything else, and man, in order to get one of these stupid ass mementos, you have to do all of these competitions and be the best. But then you also have to go back after beating a certain boss, because the boss will come back and he'll be a good guy and he'll do the competitions and he'll one up whatever your score you had. So if you were fucking sweating and you
could screw yourself out like that.
You have to do even better. I don't know if that's how they do it, but he was better than me at all of my fucking first competition scores, and the second time
I can only imagine it was to like a set
it's
value
so hard.
or something.
Oh, it's so hard. But I don't know what it was, but that felt so overtuned. And it's for nothing. It's just for extra stuff. Right. So it's really not for anything useful, except for the first time, because that's how you get one of your oils for your needle. But in general, good game, good balance, worth the wait. I would highly recommend. For $20, it's insane. Ton of value.
Bro, $20 in this economy? Are you joking?
Yeah, that's nasty.
Nuts.
Like, what? I had to buy it. I couldn't pirate a game like this. It's so cheap. It's so cheap. For what you're getting, yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. It really just feels good to play, and there are certain games that are like that. It's something intangible. It's just about how everything gels together, and I'm happy to say that Silksong is one of those games, despite the difficulty that I have with certain aspects of their tuning, and the runbacks. But besides that,
man,
definitely worth it to check it out.
I plan on checking this one out at some point. The idea of the runbacks being worse is something that decentivizes me a little bit, but I still will. You
know what I would highly recommend to you now that
modding it, so you just save state right in front of the dudes.
1000%. I did not think to do that until like the very end of like Act 3, and I'm like,
wait a minute,
I should have done that this entire time, because all this time I'm raging in between my fucking run back. I could have just, immediately been there and just fought the boss again.
That's
with limited amount of annoyance from me. So would highly recommend getting at least certain quality of life improvements.
I'll probably,
just because once you get a good feel for the difficulty of the game, and if it really gels for you, why subject yourself to more pain when instead you could just have fun? It's a game.
No,
have fun with it. Do whatever you want with it. Mod it, I don't cheat. Who cares? It's like, sure, you're not gonna have like an experience
Sure,
that
it's
is
maybe
one
not
to
the
one
same
with
exact
everyone
same.
else,
It depends on what you
but
do.
yeah, if it helps you enjoy the game,
Right.
fuck it, you paid for it, I guess. So have fun.
Yeah, we'll check it out at some point. Maybe a year or two. But the listeners will just have to stay subscribed until that point in my life. Um, so yeah, I'll check it out at some point. It's good to hear that you enjoyed this one. And it is crazy that they actually finally released this thing after it being in the talks and the works for so
So
long.
long.
It's sort of a
Yeah,
shadow drop where they're like, hey, it's gonna come out in like a week or two or whatever, and then
yeah.
it did,
Hmm.
and it was really nice. So that's cool. The next game on my list, which I know Peter is just uh, sitting on the edge of his seat for me to talk about this one. It's a game that was released this year, and who would have known? I've actually talked about it maybe once or twice before, and it's this game called Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Whoa! So I ended up beating this one for which was nice. The chapter 12 was where the Wii U game left off. It had that weird the cliffhanger ending where it's like, what do you mean this is the end of the game experience thing? And in this, it's, well, in the subtitle of it, it's a much more definitive end to the thing of a story that, again, I wasn't terribly invested in or whatever, but it was still nice to see. And by the very end of the game, I actually sort of figured out the way to play it, which I had not for the previous 70 hours on the Switch version, as well as maybe 50 or 60 hours on the Wii U, or just sort of bumbling around, not really knowing what I was doing. And then sort of in the Switch version, I sort of figured things out with some YouTube guides and stuff, but I did not really fully piece it together until my near end hours in this way of playing it, because there's this thing called overdrive, which is basically how you do like a billion trillion damage and stuff, and it's basically a mode you go into where you your arts charge up way faster, and you can basically just do cool moves or more cool moves more often, and it makes a combat more interesting and less like you're sitting on your back, and it's more of a proactive sort of thing, and it's the most interesting about combat. And without it, the combat really fucking sucks, and it's so slow, and you're just sitting there, and it's like so boring, and you just feel like you're doing nothing. But if you have overdrive, it actually feels like, oh, I'm actually legitimately doing something, or at least that's the feel of it. And the way it works is you need a certain resource called TP, and you get TP from just doing combat things, from like doing moves and taking hits, I guess, also. And there's varying ways you could increase the rate at which you get them, sort of. And so I had a build that would let me, once I do overdrive, I could get enough TP back to do overdrive again within that overdrive cycle. So I would activate overdrive, and then I would get enough TP to activate it again, and then I would just do a bunch of moves that I would want, and then the overdrive would end, and I would immediately restart it to continue that, sort of. But the actual way you could do it is just not wait for it to end and then do it again. You could just press the overdrive button, and it'll add to the timer that you have for it, and so you just make it go infinite in one thing versus, oh, it ends and I start again and start again. It's just you increase the amount of time that you have it for, and you can just make it go fucking infinite. So I figured that out at the end of the game, basically, or that was a thing that you could do. It's a pretty important thing you could do. And so it did help me win more fights. And then also the mechs, I actually used them more in combat, which previously I was kind of avoiding, because overdrive is the most overpowered best thing you could use, but the locations of some enemies makes that difficult because you have to be out of the mech to do that. You have to be on foot, and a lot of enemies like to fly around, so it's hard to attack them when they're 100 feet above you or whatever. So the mech fights are required sometimes, and they're much better than the on foot without overdrive, but they're worse than the if you do have overdrive, if that makes sense. And the certain mechs deal way more damage than other certain mechs, and so I had a mech that was really good at flying around really fast and not so good in combat. So I kind of had most of the game where it's like the mech fights were not so good because I had the bad mech that was not the good at the combat. And so I got one that was the good at the combat, and therefore I was then, from that point when I had to do the mech fights, was good at the combat. Whoa. learning the game and the last stretch of things. Wow.
Better late than never.
No, I know, yeah. In the last fucking 10 hours of this game that I've played for more than 100 hours, if you include the original version of it. And so, yeah, it was nice getting to the end of it. So the final area was a little bit silly and annoying and overly long, sort of, if you try to do everything. But, it was fine. It was nice, I guess. One other problem I had consistently throughout the whole thing was the game would load all at once, basically the entire world, and that's really, really cool and awesome. And on the Switch 2, the load times are slightly faster. So when you teleport, it would basically just reload the entire world somehow. Just be the entire thing, and you could seamlessly go from one area to the other with very few exceptions. There's like some areas where you go like inside a place and loads is a separate thing, but that's pretty rare and uncommon. But there's still issues when it comes to the exact spawn times of, certain NPCs or enemies. They would not spawn immediately. It would the game would you would teleport to one location, the screen would go black, it's loading shit, and then it would put you in and you can move around. But not everything was quite there yet. So I would go and run around and they try to find certain NPCs and they just weren't there. And then like a few seconds later, they're like right on top of me. I'm like, oh, they just haven't appeared until a few seconds, as in right now. And it would happen with enemies too, where I would be, okay, I spawn here and now I'm going to fly in the scale to this area and try to investigate this thing. But, oh wait, now there's an enemy who aggroed onto me because they weren't there. But like if I saw them, I could have avoided them or try to get myself into a more advantageous position to legitimately fight them. Versus now I'm trying to get a specific item or I'm even trying to talk to a specific NPC who's somewhere in the middle of fucking surrounded by enemies for some reason, and the game just didn't load fast enough for a particular monster. Like it's spawned a bunch of other monsters fine, but just the one that it matters most, it just didn't show up until I'm right on it. So that was a pretty silly thing that occurred throughout the game. I don't really know how to best avoid that on a game programmer perspective. Of how you do that, because I mean it's impressive that it gets the entire thing all at once. It just takes a second after you already spawn in. So I don't think there's much they could do to fix that, but it's still a thing that exists and it's a slight issue, I feel like. And oh yeah, so there's this weird thing where when you're in a mech and you go to sort of a short area, it'll place you out of the mech when you spawn there because the mech is like too big or whatever, and then the mech spawn has like a separate spawn like from where you spawned, if that makes sense. But there was this one area of the game, there's like the home base structure, HQ, what's the game term when it's a location that you go back to a bunch of times?
Base, headquarters, yeah.
Hub. That's the
hub
word
area.
I'm looking for,
Yes.
Peter. The hub, and there's a like alien ship that arrives in there, and it's you can teleport into the interior of that because there's like NPCs and side quests and stuff to get in there. And for some reason, it would not let you teleport there when you were in your mech, even though other areas like restrain you, like get you out of that when you teleport and place your mech somewhere else. But for some reason, this location specifically did not let you do that. So I opened the menu, tried to teleport all the way there, and it's like, you can't actually do that. You have to get out of your mech first. So I have to close the fucking map menu, get out of the thing, and then go back into the map, and then scroll all the way to the location again, and then try to teleport. But sometimes the game wouldn't update quickly enough, so I would get out of the mech, and then I would go back on the map screen and try to teleport to that location, and it would still tell me, dude, you gotta get out of your mech, man. You gotta, even though I was out, but you have to be out for like a second or two or some bogus. Even though I was already fucking out, you know what I mean? Not a big deal, but something I noticed. So it's gonna be something that I mention in this podcast. And that's the sauce, the history, the opinions on this video game that I have. I enjoyed my time overall with it. It's not a thing for everyone. I don't think its audience is quite narrow. You got to be in it for the long haul. You got to be into a video game that's not going to teach you a whole lot of things, really. There's more tutorials in this. They're still not very good at teaching you with the ins and outs of what you're supposed to be doing. I think the best thing it has going for it is the exploration in the world and how it scales with your progression in terms of you're running around on foot, and then now you're in a mech that can go really fast and jump high, and then now you're in a mech that can fly, and that's really, really cool. And the progression through that is nice. If you figure out overdrive in the combat and get good mech stuff, the combat could be cool. If you don't do that, like I did for the most of the game, it will maybe not be as cool. The main story is okay. The side quests range quite a bit. I think overall they're good, though they're probably not. I almost don't like them necessarily as much as the side quests in 2 or 3, and they're maybe on par in general with ones like Xenoblade, the numbered games. But yeah, overall it's a good game. Again, it's hard to recommend because it's hard to get into. It's the opposite of Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, where it's not that if you showed 1 million people both of these games and they had to point out like which one they like more, I would say like 99% of them would be like, bro, Clair Obscur is like so much better. Which I do like that one more as well. It's just, again, the audience of this one is going to be much more narrower. But it could be the realest shit that a particular person has ever played or seen. So I think it is a very good game overall. It just has some gripes. It's the black sheep of the series for a reason. And the definitive edition is a very good upgrade that brings a lot of really necessary, I would say, quality of life improvements to a game that was not broken but could use some touch-ups, and this did a very good job at that. So I'm glad I revisited it and eventually beat it. So yeah.
Very nice. How does it rank now for you?
Oh, it's my least favorite of the Xenoblade games.
Okay.
Easily. Does not mean it's a bad game. I love the Xenoblade series, of which there's 4 of them. My order goes in 1, 2, 3 this X.
Okay.
I might like 2 more, potentially. I'm foreseeing it maybe in the future if I decide to revisit that. Though I'm waiting to go back to those games for a Switch 2 enhancement. I want the 60 FPS. I want the better resolution. But Nintendo's just like, I don't know if I want to do that.
They'll do it eventually.
Yeah,
for
dude.
the money. If there's money in there, they'll do it.
Fucking better, dude. I don't care about the new Kirby game with your shitty ass expansion pack. Give me the big ass JRPG game where you're gonna fix the frame rate, because they're already really beautiful looking games, locked at 30 FPS. Just unlock their potential, man. You're holding them back. Just let them go. Just let them go into the 60 sphere.
Right? Yep.
You let it happen for Breath of the Wild. Come on. These games are way better, actually, than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's popular opinion.
Oh, no. Yeah, the Clair Obscur to Xenoblade X, the Breath of the Wild to any of the Xenoblade games, Obviously, one's going to appeal a little bit more to a wider audience, and that's going to be the Zelda. If you could believe it. The bigger franchise. But yeah, I would highly recommend the series, though. I feel like you would maybe get something out of some of them. I feel like.
I definitely need to play through them.
They're really cool.
I'll have to emulate them or something like that. Eventually. They are, I guess, intimidating in the amount of time that I would have to spend on.
Yeah, they're big and they're long. Yeah, and they're unapproachable for
it is what it is.
Any of those reasons, but I mean, I don't know. You just played 200 fucking hours of Oblivion or Skyrim or some shit. You just played another 150 hours of Baldur's Gate 3. You used 100% of Hollow Knight Silksong. Come on.
Yeah.
This is no problem for Peter. This is no issue.
You're right. It's just how I'm justifying it for myself.
This is just another 3 weeks for the guy. This is just another couple weeks of his life. There's no issue.
I'll get it done real quick.
Hey, you could binge them in a week each, I bet. I'm joking. If they were books, you could do them in a day. But since they're video games, they're going to take a little bit longer.
Exactly. Just give me the script. Give me the dialogue. I'll get it done.
You can get through the fucking
I'll get back to you.
You can get the dialoge of the main story in like an hour or 2.
So much
and then all the side quests like another hour.
I'll watch cutscenes on YouTube.
At 4 times speed.
Full movie, whatever. Yeah. Hey, sometimes that hits. Sometimes that's how I used to do it.
That's
The
how I
games I could
experienced the
play as a
Kingdom
kid.
Hearts games, some of them.
Yep. Yep.
I did watch a lot of that when I was younger as well. Not just Let's Plays, but just the cutscenes. Like for Sonic '06, I watched the cutscenes of that, and I was like, "Oh my god, this game looks so fucking sick! This looks so
It was
awesome!"
fun. It was
And then I
so
watched Game
fun.
Grumps play. I'm like, "Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
bad.
And then you
Okay,
play it, and then you play it yourself.
yeah."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never played it myself,
Okay.
so I'm trying to avoid that.
Maybe that's for the best. Maybe
Yeah.
that's for the best.
We'll see. Maybe someday. Who knows? But yeah, Xenoblade X was a game I just beat. What is a game that you have also played recently, Peter?
Well, considering we keep talking about games that just dropped this year, I thought I'd continue on and play another sequel to another highly anticipated or highly acclaimed game,
Mm-hmm.
that being Hades 2. Hades 2 dropped immediately,
Oh
like the
my
day I
god.
finished Silksong, and I'm like, well, I guess it's time. And this game
That's
has the
crazy
sauce.
timing.
I really, really like this game, combat wise. I think the feel of it is just Hades but better.
Really?
Really all the aspects of Hades that, you know, everyone liked, like the roguelike aspect, the dialogue, and the hub area that you get to pimp out and eventually progress through your various runs. It's bigger, it's better. There's more stuff, there's more resources that you'll pick up through your various runs. I don't think this is a spoiler or anything, but there are different paths now. So it's not just one run that you're going through. You have two that you can choose from going up and down, that have different regions, different bosses, and each of these
Different like
each
end
of these
fights
paths now
and
have
stuff.
have 4 areas, same end fights, same bosses, but now there's 8 bosses total essentially,
Interesting.
which as opposed to 3 or 4.
Right.
And bosses are all good. It's a good balance of difficulty, I think, throughout all of them. Final bosses of each run are obviously the most difficult, and I think the overall feel for the game just it feels better. I'm really enjoying
Really?
playing through this. I think the weapons in this game I prefer. I think there's only one weaker weapon that I don't really love using right now. As opposed to with Hades 1, I like most of them, but I think there were like 2 or 3 that I was fine skipping out on. But man, it's really fun. I don't know if I just feel like I got better at the game, or like things are finally clicking in Hades 2, where like the keepsakes are all great and you can use them situationally in order to get your builds however you want, in order to build for whatever weapon that you're choosing, and the certain aspects have not specific preferences, but certain boons will do better with certain weapons, and so you can kind of build for that. And man, once you get a build really cooking and functioning at a high level, it feels so good. You're just deleting units off the map. I've beaten both of the final bosses for each side now a few times. I'm bumping up the fear in this game is what it's called, as opposed to heat, which is just the difficulty modifiers, which are very cool. They have the same thing where you can kind of change the boss mechanics for each of the final bosses of the regions. There are certain changes that they will have if you activate this certain fear mechanic, which will essentially just really change up the entire run of the boss and how it functions, which is really cool. Keeps the game fresh. All of the fear modifiers help to do that, and you'll get, obviously, the first time you beat any of these games, it was the same thing with Hades 1, where you still have a bunch of more things that you can do, more stuff to unlock. There's more story to unlock.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue playing until I find a good stopping point. There's definitely, I guess, I'm not feeling any fatigue right now. It still feel like I'm getting enough progression each time that it's running smoothly. I feel like there's always something I want to do, something I'm trying to unlock, or something I'm trying to build for. That really keeps the whole thing running very, very smoothly. It's a really great game. This is definitely going to be one of my favorites of the year. I've heard rumblings about the ending story-wise not being as
I've also
great,
heard
or
something about that.
being a bit ham-fisted, but I won't know it until I see it. And until then, I mean, I'm very much enjoying myself. And even if the story is, falls apart at the end, I don't know if I care, because with games like this, with the roguelike aspect, where it's about the runs for me.
Yeah.
It's about, is the combat fun? Is the gameplay loop fun? Am I feeling satisfaction building my run and finding success in fighting these bosses?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to change depending on how the story ends. I think it's just going to get better and better as I unlock more things, more keepsakes, more aspects for my weapons, and all of that. It's just super, super enjoyable.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I definitely want to get to this one at some point, because Hades, the first one, I love that shit. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's surprising and also almost hard to believe that they were able to one up it with
I know.
a
Yeah.
sequel here.
They set high expectations, and I mean, I'm a big fan of Supergiant games. I remember when Bastion first came out on mobile.
You
That
played
was
that?
like peak. Oh, it was so peak. I don't remember if it was on iPad or just phone. I think it was just phone at point 2011. Yeah, it was just on mobile. But man, it's a great game. Really fun. Pretty concise and tight, but also something I would highly recommend.
I own another one of their
Ch-
games, Transistor. I own that on the
Yeah,
Switch.
Transistor. I
At some
heard
point,
good things about that. I started it briefly, but I
I
never
haven't played it.
finished that. But I like the style they have to all their games. It's just like art style is always great. The voice acting is also pretty standout for the most part. I really like their use of like a narrator. In this one, you have Homer of the Iliad, kind of narrating
Oh,
you
really?
as a ghost and getting certain dialogue moments, which are really fun. Yeah, the whole cast is great. There's your relationships that you can build up, your romance if you want,
Oh my god.
and then your various relationships with the NPCs that you'll meet out during your runs.
Yeah.
A lot of it is centered around the Odyssey. So you have Odysseus as opposed to Achilles as your kind of, I guess, your right-hand man slash
Mentor,
strategic
almost.
mentor sort of character. And a lot of the bosses or NPCs are loosely related to the Odyssey, and it's great. It's just more, if you like Hades, then you like this one.
That's cool.
I really think there's nothing to stop you from jumping into this one if you enjoyed the first one.
It's sort of similar to
Very
Silksong,
strong.
a sequel to
Yeah, yeah.
a beloved indie game releasing
And
in relatively
they're hitting.
similar time.
Yeah, yep.
They're on
Very,
par, if
very
not better,
good
than
times.
the original.
I don't know why more people just don't, get better. If you just do better the next time, just make it better, and they've been doing that.
Yeah, I would love to play this game at some point.
It feels so good. Like I don't know if I've played a roguelite that hits this level in a while. Like
Really?
my favorites are probably Risk of Rain 2 and
Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire, and those are very different games to this one. Like
Right.
they are scratching very different itches. So this kind of, pick three boons and move on, go to the next room, and have your hub area with your resources that you get to upgrade. It's, I think, my favorite that I've played. Is that good? I think
Damn,
I'm really really enjoying it.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Last video game thing we have to discuss is a thing that I have. So last discussion, that we had. Peter mentioned this thing that can be considered to be a video game somehow called Steins Gate, and that's a visual novel. And when he had mentioned that, I held myself back from rambling on and on and on about the format of the genre of video games that is visual novel. But really, what I was doing is I was just saving my ramble for another day at another time where it would be more relevant to a thing that I would bring up to discuss. And that time is
Okay.
now. That time is now. Because I did just play a visual novel, or I just finished playing one that I had been doing for a very long time, which I will get into in a second. But first, I have to explain my
Okay.
thoughts and feelings upon visual novels, because I think that they are a very cool way of storytelling that is somewhat underutilized. So when it comes to the absolute pinnacle of storytelling methods or media forms, a physical book is going to reign supreme, right? Like a novel with paragraphs and words organized into those paragraphs and chapters and whatnot. And then the form that would maybe most directly come after that would be graphic novels, like comic books and manga. Those are pretty high tier in terms of storytelling stuff. Not as good as novels though. And then after that, at some point, you have video games and movies and television. I don't know how those would be categorized. They each have their ups and downs, and there's some video games where the storytelling aspects of them is really ingrained into the like gameplay aspect somehow in a good enough way to make it, I don't know, stand out and be unique. We just talked about Clair Obscur, where they do like a fork in the road at the very end of the game, choose two options. That's not the most interesting thing ever. There are other ways where the interweaving of the gameplay and the story is held a bit stronger, in my opinion. And I guess sort of on that topic is what visual novels can potentially be. So they are almost a combination of every media form, sort of, in one thing, potentially. So you have a novel, right? You have words, you have narration, you have character dialogue. From a novel, you put that into this thing called a visual novel. You, on top of that, you add visuals, you add sounds from sound effects and potentially voice acting. You add maybe animations in some way. So what you have is a book, sort of, that moves and you can listen to. And that's really, really cool, honestly. The main drawback of this genre is not necessarily what the media form is capable of, but rather just the actual stories that make up what the genre is, because a lot of visual novels is just romance schlop or like just hentai or something. um and it makes it a hard thing to sell when so much of like the just the genre has that. I don't know if it's a stereotype or if it's a real thing. There's a lot of those though that are out there that sort of plague the genre, and I mean the thing that I'm about to talk about almost falls into that. Almost the exact version of it is not, but a version of it sort of does. Which, I mean, I guess I should just say it, right? It's the visual novel of all time, I guess you could say. That being Fate Stay Night. I specifically played the remastered version of it, which came out last year. And I really like this thing. This is a title that fits within the series called Fate that I'm not going to bother explaining. It's very big, spanning video games and mangas and animes and a whole bunch of shit. A stupid ass gacha game that it has. It's probably the worst gacha game ever, if I'm being honest. Anyways, that's not what this discussion's about. The Fate Stay Night has a couple of anime adaptations, which I have seen one of them, specifically this one called Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, which I was misinformed at the time where I saw it, where a mutual friend of Peter and myself told me, or at least my recollection is that they told me that it was a like remake anime thing akin to FMA Brotherhood, where it was a replacement remake thing to the original Fate Stay Night anime, which that's not true. Fate Stay Night the anime and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works are two different adaptations of different routes from the Fate Stay Night visual novel. One of them is not a remake of the other and just like replacing random shit. They're adaptations of different parts of this one game. And so there's 3 routes in total from this visual novel. There's 3 main routes. There's Fate, there's Unlimited Blade Works, and then there's Heaven's Feel. And they're all really cool and interesting and distinct, sort of, from one another. Basically, the games and a lot of the Fate stories in general, probably most people know this if they were to be listening in, but if not, it's about this thing called the Holy Grail War, which occurs every I think it's supposed to be 100 years, but for some reason, the 5th one, which the current one that the game is taking place in, only happens 10 years after the 4th one. So they kind of just happen whenever the fucking author feels like it. And it's basically a thing where there's 7 dudes in Japan, and they're seemingly somewhat randomly picked, and they summon heroic spirits of the past to fight against the other people, the other summoners, and the other heroic spirits from across time, to fight to get the Holy Grail, which grants any wish and stuff. And so there is a lot you could do with that subject, and the fact that there are 3 separate story routes, it allows for just a really good and solid exploration of that, where it's in some routes certain characters are going to die earlier than other characters. Sometimes you're going to be allied with some in some routes and not in others, and it's just like a really interesting and dynamic way of doing a story, right? Where, I mean, especially for if you do want to have a story that has alternate paths and stuff, I would say a video game is probably the best way to do it. It doesn't have to necessarily be a visual novel, necessarily, right? Like Baldur's Gate 3, you have a bunch of random decisions, not random, but you have a bunch of different decisions you can make across each of the things that impact the moment-to-moment gameplay of things, and maybe eventually down the line, there's some sort of ramifications of other decisions that you make across them. And so I would say video games as a medium is the best in terms of offering that. I understand that Netflix has that Bandersnatch fucking thing.
Yeah,
I haven't checked that out. It's like 20 hours or
Black
something
Mirror.
to do all of it.
I never really got into Black Mirror like that, so no.
I wasn't
haven't
into
checked
it.
that out.
Yeah, I've only seen like a couple episodes of that. I mean, I don't think you
Same.
have to. So, since they're so
Probably not,
episodic and
no.
it's episode to episode, it's just a different concept. You don't have to really
True.
see the whole show.
Anthological. Mm-hmm.
But that was an interesting experiment that they did, which worked out sort of okay, I think. Some people liked it, but it was mostly a gimmick, I feel like. Versus, again, video games where they're able to explore that in what I would say a more solid way about things. And so, I mean, it's the visual novel of all time. It's iconic. It's what sort of brought it did not invent the genre, but it brought it to a wide number of people who had not previously experienced it. And the Fate series is very, very big, and it's very popular in Japan, and somehow the original visual novel was only officially put into English last year through this remastered version of things, which is wild to me. I don't know how that happened.
I mean, they do that sometimes. Right? They just won't remake it. Mother specifically.
Mother wanted fucking 3. Get on your. They already localized Mother in the form of Earthbound Beginnings, but they still have not done Mother 3. That's annoying. Reggie Fils-Aimé, get off your ass. Localized Mother 3. He would get memed on that, and it was sort of unnecessary. Anyways,
he's doing his best.
Yeah. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, speaking of alternate versions of this game, Fate Stay Night is somewhat infamous as a visual novel for having hentai scenes, which in the remastered version they did not have those. They censored them, and the scenes that replaced them, it was pretty obvious that they were scenes that would was otherwise there was going to be sex in, but they removed it, and instead they're just like cuddling and stuff. It's sort of silly in that way. It's fairly obvious that that we're gonna fucking interact to like share brains, and like the power force will like be shared between us, and we'll be like stronger in battle or whatever. But instead of like the dick and vagine, it's gonna be someone like just slightly. You have to hold hands for a little bit or something like that. So it was fairly obvious when moments like that were occurring. I do not really have much interest in comparing the events, how they played out with the hentai versus the not hentai, because the characters, most of them are like in high school, and it's not really the thing that I am interested in for when it comes to that the sort of thing. Maybe if I was of a certain age at a certain period of my life, I would be like, oh my god, it would be so sick to witness and read and listen to voice acting, which I don't know if the original release of it had voice acting to accompany those moments. It might have, but they would have been Japanese only, and even in the remastered, it's in English, but it's Japanese voices accompanying them. So again, I just think it's a really good, really solid thing. It's very long. It's very, very long. It took me 100 hours or so to do everything, which sounds weird. It's like the gameplay is every once in a while I choose a dialogue option, and that does a thing. But it took about 90 hours to experience each of the main routes and get the like main different endings and stuff you could get, and then another 10 to go back and do the things that I missed. So it's much nicer in terms of letting you go back and get those things compared to Steins Gate, where the remastered version of Fate Stay Night is much more nicely split into subsections of events that you can just skip to. And when you encounter a decision that you made, and you choose to do one option or the other, and if you already experienced the next part, it will prompt you to be like, oh, do you want to skip this entire section that you've already seen? And you can be like, yes, and you can just keep doing that until you get to another decision, and you choose another thing. So it's very, 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 very nice.
That does seem very
in that
convenient.
way, versus Steins Gate, where you just have to go to the start of the fucking chapter,
Do it again,
hold control for like so long. It's so stupid. I love that game though. And overall, I do prefer Steins Gate as a story, as a like in terms of like being an actual video game and like being nice to the player. This one is much better though, just in terms of the quality of life and type of things. It is much better. Other random stuff I have to say is so the format of visual novels. Another thing you do is like change the text font and the color, and mess with the way that it appears on the screen, like the orientation of it and stuff, and just to like overall contribute to the setting the mood, or setting something or other in some sort of overall purpose to make a certain event go about in a slightly different way than it other would have if you had experienced it in a different media form. So sometimes the text would appear in like the middle of the screen when it's being ultra dramatic or something, and for some reason the voice would start talking before the text started showing up, which was not normal, and it was just weird. Like the text, I feel like, was delayed at every time the text was centered in the screen. I don't know if that was intentional. If it was, it felt odd. I feel like it was not intentional, but it could have been. And if it was intentional, then that's a strange decision to make, and I wonder why they would have done that. If it's not intentional, then catch your fucking game. It's broken. It's Persona 5 the Phantom X all over again. So yeah, it's a really cool experience, I think, to have. Overall, I liked it way, way, way more than the Fate Stay Night Unlimited Bladeworks anime, which I saw somewhat early on into my anime watching career, where I was watching the banger after banger, sort of like the film thing, as I was saying. This is the Silence of the Lambs for the video games, in terms of the me going back to it and being like, oh, I actually like it way better. It was actually the same score, starting and increase from 6 to an 8. So I mean,
nice.
because the Unlimited Bladeworks anime, I was like, yeah, it's okay, it's whatever, it's decent. The actual storytelling and what it's able to get through and expand on it's just going to be longer than any anime adaptation because it is going to be able to take that much more time with the characters in each event going about it. And it's much more atmospheric. The music is really good. The voice acting, even though I don't speak the language, I could tell was really, really good, I think. So I would recommend this for people who would maybe want to get into it. I think it's a good sort of intro, despite its very big length. But you don't have to do it all at once, sort of like I did in a row. You could split it up by route and just do like one route and then come back to it later, do another one. There's 3 of them. I had been playing this for the longest time. I started in I don't think March, but what's the month that comes out of that? May. I think I started this in May, and now it's I finished it end of it, September. So pretty long time that I was doing it
pretty
for.
Long. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. I guess the thing with visual novels is it is the blend between book and video games, right? But I think it's more useful to go into a visual novel with the expectation of it being
100%. You need that mindset of, I'm not going to be playing a game.
Yeah, I'm not playing a game. Which is like when I went into Steins Gate, I was a bit, all put by
you have to know
the realization that okay, this is just essentially
it's a text
dramatization of a novel, right? And there are audiobooks that do similar things. There are like audio. I can't remember exactly what they're called.
There's interactive
audio theaters, not interactive necessarily, but they will have voice actors for each different character, and there will be cool. Narration and sound effects and various streamlined aspects to the audio novel, because certain things where this person thought, you could just have the voice actor say that instead of voicing various expositional things.
That's cool.
Or so I haven't really listened to any of those, but they seem like they scratch the same itch. But with the visual novel, you also have the interactivity and the limited interactivity, I guess, and but it's just another differentiating element besides also having everything fully visualized, which I guess sets it apart and is, like you said, how it becomes a unique form of media that really is fairly niche, and something that you have to go into with the right mindset, because otherwise you will be either
you will pull a Peter and be like, wait a minute, when do I kill things?
This ain't
when do I run around?
Or wait a second.
Wait, where's the ball?
Or whatever. I can't.
When video games don't have ball or gun in it. What do you mean there's no gun or ball? Because that's the other weird thing about visual novels is some of them lean all into the text-based things, and every once in a while you make a decision. Like the Steins Gate and this. Versus some games like Danganronpa or Ace Attorney.
I guess that's
you're making a little bit more live decisions as you go about things. There's still a lot of dialogue and a lot of M1 presses. Or spacebar, if you prefer that. But there's still a lot of that, but there's also still a lot more actual on the fly sort of decision making about things. And then every once in a while you get a 13 Sentinels where it's a lot of the dialogue stuff happening, and then now all of a sudden you're playing a completely different genre of game for a little bit. So they can vary quite heavily. I don't know if there's a subgenre to indicate whether it's one of those or the other, if it's true visual novel versus mixed visual novel. I don't know. There should be, I feel to differentiate that for games that there's a little bit more gameplay involved versus ones where it's just completely text-based, and every once in a while there's a decision, if any. So that'd be nice if we as a community could coin a term. Jupiter could be the people to start that. Yeah. The Drew visual novels are just only text-based, and then the Peter ones have gameplay. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm playing a Drew visual novel.
It'll catch on.
Oh, but the Peter visual novels are so much fucking better, dude. They have gun and ball.
So true.
The Drew ones don't have gun and ball.
You get to pick item. Don't you want to choose item?
We're calling it now. That's how it'll be. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this. It's a cool one and worth checking out if you could, again, spare the time, which I think is worth it.
Maybe are you going through a visual novel phase at some point? Gonna go through all the classics?
Just hit all. I don't even. I have a handful of
I
them
don't know what
downloaded.
those
Like
would be.
there's one
Hmm.
called Song of Saya, which is somewhat short, I think, and there's one fucking called the fucking Fate Morgana or Fata Morgana or something. I have those. I also have the non-airy games. I think they're called. There's 999 and then some other one, and then they have a sequel after that. So I have a backlog of them definitely, but I also have a backlog of every other genre that I play.
That's
So
true.
I will spend some
You got
time
to
away.
pick and
I
choose.
like mixing it up. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
gonna play a bunch of visual novels all at once. I'm behind in the anime seasonals, Peter. I need to catch up on that. There's
Yeah.
definitely not another thing that relates to reading that I should be doing
No,
that I got to catch
no,
up on. I don't think so.
nothing like that.
Nothing I could recall. Anyways,
But
that is the video game section, I believe, right?
exactly. And so on to the music recommendations for this month.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been a few really good ones. Um, First off, Big Thief, classic indie band, just dropped their new album, Double Infinity. Uh, their usual blend of folk rock and country and indie folk, stuff like that. Um, this one more spacey, almost psychedelic, as opposed to more of their other stuff, which has been a little more rustic. But something I would definitely check out. Um, Shorter project from project called Igloo Ghost, called Bronze Claw ISO. This one being an EP. That's a really interesting blend of a ton of different genres, mostly electronic influenced, but a lot of kind of hip hop and industrial tinged production styles too. Just really great production. All of the different uh, synths and effects that he's able to use in his music is really standout. I think all of his stuff is just really impressive. Would highly recommend that. Um, Another album from a band called Frost Children, called Sister. This one being more of like a throwback electropop style genre. Very kind of dancey and club oriented, kind of early 2000s. Pretty noisy and energetic. Somewhat akin to the Porter Robinson album that came out last year. And this one's a lot of fun to listen to. Very, like I said, poppy and vibrant, and also a lot of kind of interesting, noisier production choices from the duo. Um, Another one to point your way is the new album from Maruja, Manchester band, and their album called Pain to Power, which I believe is their debut. I've been following them for a while because they've been dropping a bunch of really good EPs throughout the years. They do a really interesting blend of post-punk, post-rock stuff, and the really interesting aspect of it is a lot of their stuff is improvised. It's a band of four, and they do just really great improvised runs, just through like a really unique camaraderie that they have with each other. And this one is a bit louder, a bit more kind of inspired by hip hop elements, I would say. But the usual kind of grand and soaring and expansive builds that they're known for are still here in this album. Would definitely check that one out. Another one to point your way is the new album from Wednesday called Bleeds. This band has been kind of on the up and coming circuit for indie artists for a while now. They've been getting a lot of good press recently, and this one I think is far and away their best. It's a blend of kind of slacker rock and alt country vibes, ton of great loud noisy guitars, as well as the more kind of sentimental and moody stuff. A lot of just great kind of lo-fi productions styles. really noisy, but also kind of a lot of really catchy stuff, honestly. Some of their catchiest songs, I think, that I've listened to. Another album to point your way from Joanne Robertson, who is a singer-songwriter, folk artist. This one is really interesting, very dreamy and hazy, album called Blur. Very mellow and kind of slow, but really beautiful and kind of dreamlike in its production styles. A lot of reverb, almost tinny, so there are like elements to it that I think are very kind of niche and situational, but really kind of interesting and psychedelic. A very cool blend of rustic instrumentations with a more dreamy atmosphere to the songs and the songwriting. Another one to point your way from Z-Loopers, Dolly Ain't Dead. Really good rap project that come out from a very interesting artist. I've been listening to him for a while. I found him in college, and this one, another good addition to his discography. Mostly trap and abstract hip hop stuff, but I like his songwriting a lot. Very kind of quirky, tongue in cheek, great bars throughout the whole project. A lot of good energy and some good features throughout. And then finally, last but not least, certainly not least, is the new album from a band called Geese, called Getting Killed. And this is a really, really fun album. Probably going to be one of my favorites of the year. It's your classic genres of like indie rock and rock in general, but it's in a very new, fresh spin on it. Really kind of soulful and passionate and a bit awkward. But the general energy from this album is super infectious, and it has a bunch of really off the cuff and strange vocal inflections from the lead singer Cameron Winters, who also had a really good solo album that came out last year, I believe. But man, I'm really enjoying this band. The last two projects they've dropped have been really standout, and I think they're doing really interesting and special and fresh things in what is a very tried and true genre, rock and indie rock. They're doing something unique and really worth celebrating, I think. Really good album that I would highly recommend. But that takes us to the end of my music section.
Hell yeah.
And books, what are those?
What do you mean? You gonna skip my music takes?
Oh, really? You have music takes? I would love to hear those. I love good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah. Great to hear.
Anyways, the books. Should we move on to the book section, Peter?
Yeah,
You have any items? I got nothing.
The books. I got nothing.
You got no books?
No, not this.
Peter got no books. What kind of month?
I mean, I guess I finished the one I was talking about last week.
Oh yeah,
or last month. That being
the fan fiction Kylo Ren.
Yeah, the Rey. Love hypothesis. Yeah,
that was the end of that. Did it? Your thoughts and feelings, did that change at all? Or
no, it's stayed pretty similar. It's fun to read. Not really deep or anything, but it's a fun, quirky kind of silly romance.
Sure.
In the STEM field, if that's what you're looking for, is a very STEM coded. But
yeah, nice.
YouTube. Also, I don't think I have anything really to recommend this month specifically.
Do you follow the Cubs?
How about you?
At all?
I have been following the Cubs postseason, baby. Cubs are in postseason. They just knocked off the Padres from playoff contention, or I guess World Series contention, because we're in the playoffs. They're going up against the Brewers in the NLDS pennant game. Not pennant game, sorry. But that'll be a series. So it's going to be tough because the Brewers have been very hot, one of the hottest teams in baseball. and they're coming off a bye. So hopefully Cubs keep this momentum. They were doing pretty well towards the end of the season, but they definitely had a slump towards the center of it. So hopefully we could take this pretty far. But honestly, I feel good about this team and how we can. It's a young team, so feel good about just the future in general. Football, I guess. Packers have not been. It's had some tough games, tough losses, and a tie, which you don't normally tie in a football game. We had a really hot start to the season, 2 dominant wins, and then had kind of let the foot off the gas, and maybe we're not in line for a Super Bowl per se, but hey, if we can lock back in, I think the ceiling we've set is very high. So good things.
It would lead to like a good future
still.
or something.
Yeah, I mean, Packers also have the youngest team in NFL, or one of the youngest teams in
like
the
on
NFL.
average or something.
Yeah. And so also something to look forward to. Although we are now paying a certain Micah Parsons a lot of money, so financial caps will have to be taken into account, but because we have a lot of rookies and young players, that we don't have to pay them as much, which is nice. And if we can find a lot of success this year, I would still love to see a Super Bowl. Then it's nothing necessarily to be worried about, but I guess it's like, if you're not playing for a Super Bowl, then what are you even playing for? What success are you playing for? Yeah. It's like, it's always that one goal. But that's about it for, I guess, sports ball corner.
Sports ball. I have another podcast I recommend in case if people want more hours spent listening to people talk about various media forms, and this one specifically is called The Quest for the Best in Anime Podcast, and it's hosted by this dude, Mother's Basement, as well as this dude who I did not previously know, but their YouTube channel is called Glass Reflection, and then they have this third dude who I don't think he's on YouTube, but he's an internet personality somewhat, sort of, in terms of anime, because he's on, like, I don't know, he's helps host or build the Crunchyroll Awards or something. And that's not like the main thing he does. He's done other anime related things. I cannot remember what exactly they were. So if you could not guess what the theme of it is that it's an anime podcast where they talk about anime shows and films and stuff, and try to get together a ranking list of the three of them and their wide array of knowledge of just a lot of anime. They know what they're talking about quite a bit when it comes to the art form of animation that comes from Japan. And they just, it's very simple. They just talk about it. And they talk about a lot of good ones. They sometimes talk about some middling ones or some bad ones. And it's just a nice time overall, and I would recommend it. It's relatively new. They started it a couple months ago, maybe 5 months, if I had to guess. I don't know. It's on,
looks like
well, it's
4,
not on screen. It's just in the year, yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's nice, and I enjoyed watching it. So I would recommend it.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's the end of this episode. Hopefully I said the word like a little bit less on average than a previous podcast episodes. And if I did not, then I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, sorry. Whatever, but we're just gonna like end it right here, like, I guess, because that's what I like feel like doing like right now. So I mean, like, if you, Peter, had like anything else to like say right now, like, just say it, man.
I mean, like maybe like, I guess so, but like, yeah.
What was the thing you said?
I guess.
Oh, like, kind of,
yeah.
If you kind of have,
yeah,
to, like, say
a little,
kind of,
yeah,
like, just say it. You don't have any kind of thing to say to the people?
Nothing kind of to say, no.
Okay, bye then.